The intention of justice is to see that the guilty people are proven guilty and that the innocent are freed. Only we have a problem here.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are taking a look at this case from a psychological perspective.
Fun. Everybody was having a good time.
Does Brian Albert strike you as the kind of guy who is always having fun? No. And here's a news flash for this judge. Mental health professionals have solutions.
They made an arrest. I got the guy who killed Danny.
There's like a mix between sadness and anger because that's the moment for him when he really started to believe that his mother was involved, right? He closes his eyes because he's now remembering. There is a huge psychological component to what was going on here. And according to this group, Brian Albert Jr. gets like the most celebrated birthday hour of anybody ever. Like every 30 seconds, someone's like, happy birthday! Right? She's trying to lump Colin into that earlier group.
Somebody jumps in as a journalist, draws attention to it, in a light that is not good for the prosecution. I mean, and there are serious allegations of corruption in the DA's office, in the state police.
Oh my God, it's not like his 21st birthday.
What happened outside was separate from anything that happened inside.
The most incriminating 911 call.
They're in front of his parents having text messages.
Definitely someone should give you a gun and a badge.
Horrible text messages read back as if he's the aggrieved party.
Hold on, have each of you been called murderers?
Who wants to be the one to give Matt the bad news?
I wanted to prove or to demonstrate.
I don't know where the dog was. I didn't hear any barking. Her name is Sunny. She was named after Santino Corleone.
To the side, in the side yard.
Hey, hi everybody, there's my Johnny. Hello, that's my Johnny.
Sunny barks if you walk by my window and sneeze. You're not really gonna deny this, are you?
It's so weird. It's like the Inside Out, upside down.
Really
I would get at some point in a timely fashion and then turn it over.
No, if we had it enough, or we had it all, I should say.
Kill me.
Not having any observable or detectable electrical activity would be asystole.
Means death. 3 separate tab IDs. The thing he had to encourage her to do was not to testify.
You know, and Julia Albert responds to the text message from John, and she goes, my biggest fear in life is ending up on Turtle Boy.
Stop it.
Oh, you never seen that? Oh,
No.
I gotta get you that. Let me.
No
oh
way.
yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah,
No
I gotta dig
way.
that up.
God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
People are terrified of him. They're absolutely terrified of him. And how do we know that? We know that from the mega motion. Just another day for me, right? Which means it was just not an ordinary day for somebody else. Just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in.
Karen Reed plots, she fabricates a conspiracy.
I am just a person who likes to understand. That's going to increase the likelihood that we're going to take some action.
Here she is.
Gotcha. Okay, so your sister.
My sister Jillian, yes.
Oh, it's funny. But then he's got part of his shirt untucked. His back pocket is kind of hanging out.
He has to buy that. So he has to buy that. So.
And showing solidarity, you can see them there.
It's about getting justice for John O'Keefe. There clearly is an issue of integrity.
How dare they?
Justice for all. Only we have a problem here.
We sure do. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, everybody. This is the I Don't Belong Here show, and I am your host, Samantha Beningo. I am a behavioral scientist, a career psychotherapist, a 6-year PhD candidate in clinical psychology, a master's level psychologist and counselor. And today we are here. You guys ready for this? We are here to talk data, data, data. We're talking data, but not that data, not the Hank Brennan version of data. We wouldn't do that to you anymore. I'm way over it now. No. Today, we are going to be talking about something so much more exciting. And I have to tell you, before I bring up Aussie Insider, I have to tell you, this is like a dream come true for me because for so long, I have been saying, God, I need somebody who understands coding, who understands the data, like the real data, but also understands the case. Because I tried to bring in a friend and they just, they gave me like the generic answer and I couldn't explain the case. And so, oh my God, Aussie Insider, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy you are here.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I have been fangirling over your channel for quite some time. So I'm very excited to be here and I'm glad you invited me.
I couldn't say enough amazing things. Like you have a knowledge and a skill set that is, might as well be Korean to me. I just will never understand it. I will never know it. And it's frustrating, right? It's frustrating when there's something there, but you can't unpack it. And so you've just recently, for those of you that do not know, Aussie Insider, you just recently put out 2 videos. And rather than me try to botch it and explain what they were about, why don't you give us an overview in case somebody here doesn't know what they were about?
Well, it's really hard to say what they were about in a simple sentence. But I'm sure you're going to drill me with a bunch of questions where I really have to drill you. So just the 1,000-foot overview is Ian and Hyde basically exposed their own lies and put it on the screen for the entire world to see. And then people like myself who do have experience in coding, especially SQL coding, were able to look at it, analyze it, work out what it actually means, and put the pieces together. So as you said prior to the stream, this boils down to hubris. They didn't think the whole world was watching, or that the whole world that was watching had any of this experience and would know what it was that they put on the screen. And for a long time, I didn't click. So it did take quite some rabbit hole deep diving to work out what it was that I was looking at. So it wasn't just an instant, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
So I also took a couple of months off to get my brain ready to do that deep dive into what it was that we were looking at. And I have to shout out a whole bunch of people on the internet, and I can't even remember all of their names, but today I've got to shout out Alexis K because she has not let this one go. From Alex, she's kept the pressure on Celebrate the whole time and asked all of these perfectly valid questions, which has got me brain juices all flowing again. So I'm back in. I'm the same as you. I'm not going to let this go because John O'Keefe hasn't got justice yet. So
no, he hasn't. And if it was up to the powers that be, he never will. But it is the hard work and effort that people like you and Alexis are putting in that are going to ultimately get us where we need to be, right? I mean, because that's what we need. I can behaviorally analyze all day and I can be sure in my gut, but that's not evidence. That's not going to get a search warrant, right? So
yeah, Andrea and I talked about that too, just looking at the deep dive I did do on the digital forensics, what can we prove with that? And she's like, well, it just will come down to a battle of the experts at the other end in a court scenario where you're still not going to get, because you can have one expert completely debunk the other expert's opinion and vice versa. So it's not like we found the smoking gun, but for those of us watching as an audience, it's absolutely a smoking gun.
It sure is. I mean, so and just to kind of broad overview, basically what you found was not only that 2:27 a.m. Google search happened, but that there was a deliberate, intentional, long-standing effort to delete them, to go into SQL, to go into the phone data and get rid of it.
Yep, there was different attempts, I think, multiple attempts, and I think Jen herself tried to do something with just the history in her phone, or quick delete that search and delete that search, and then someone came along and went, yeah, that doesn't delete it, that's just from your view. So that person has then opened it up in an editor, an SQL editor or SQL editor, and done more manipulations, and it was actually Ian Whiffen who gave us the exact time frame that this was done in. So
right, because he was trying to prove that she didn't do it, right? That was the point. He was trying to say that
trial one, he said she didn't complete the search, that she didn't do that. But then in trial 2, he switched it up and went, no, she completed the search, and this is how we know. And so when he was giving us how we know that she completed the search, he actually dobbed himself in and gave us the timeline in which the editing was done. That Hyde's table didn't actually give us that timeline, whereas his did. So
you can't even make it up. Now, Jessica Hyde, my understanding is she was only brought in to talk about the second 2 searches that allegedly happened that morning, right? The 623 and 624 searches. That's my understanding. Is that right?
Yes. That was his intention, to say that those searches did happen. But unintentionally, him and Hyde proved that they actually didn't happen. And that was what my videos were about, like showing you how they unintentionally proved that. So
all right, so let's go through this kind of point by point. So going back to the 2:27 timeframe, there are searches there. There's the Hockomock Sports, right? Jen tells us she had basketball on her mind, obviously. There's the Hockomock Sports. There's the YouTube video that It's Raining Men allegedly was open. A PayPal tab was allegedly open. And I think one more I'm missing. The basketball scores.
Ozone, yeah.
Yes, Frozone. That's right. So tell us about those.
Well, Jesus, you got me on the spot because I'm not in the zone. Let me try with the 1,000 views. Essentially, what we can tell from those records is that they were all done at different times. They were done at earlier times. So if they're going to claim that record 2048, I'm forgetting my numbers right now, 4028, I'm getting dyslexic. I probably should have some of this on the screen in front of me.
That's right, though, right? 4028. I think that's the record, the Google search.
The record, right. If they're going to claim that 4028 existed in the database at the point that 4031 was searched or turned up in the database, because it's sequential, the database allocates these numbers automatically. They're automatically sequential. If they're going to claim that 4028 existed when 4031, for example, appeared in the database, then it appeared on the 25th, not the 29th.
Right.
So you've got the wrong order. This is a time machine. If 4031 had a later date, then that would fit with how the database works. But it doesn't. It has an earlier date. So we're talking about time machining. We somehow zipped into the past at a future time when that record number was allocated to that row.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does.
So
and I actually thought that I saw that. I had seen during the trial in real time, Ian Whiffen showed something on the screen that said that the Raining Men thing had happened. I think it's on the 27th. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was on the 27th. And he makes that comment. He makes some statement about like that was the the last time that was opened or something, which debunks, her claim that she was showing that video or whatever earlier that night. So essentially, though, because everything is sequential in that database, we know that things were out of sequence. They were out of order. Bottom line.
Right. The 27th one was the It's Raining Men YouTube search. That was the 27th.
Right.
I've actually got the data open in front of me now, so I can.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Okay. So literally, how did they then appear in the extraction as though they happened right around the same time as the search?
Oh, easy. They just copied and pasted. Basically, you open it up in an editor, and anyone can do this. I mean, I was just saying to Sam, I could show you how to do this in probably 5 minutes, depending on your ability. Some people just see a spreadsheet and lose focus because it's math. So, but if you're switched on and you know how to work a spreadsheet, it's just open the table up, copy this URL into this row, and copy this timestamp into this row, and voila, you've got a changed record. So, and what both of them actually testified to was that they couldn't say with any certainty that that kind of thing wasn't done before they got their hands on the extractions.
Right.
So that was interesting.
Well, that's what I've been looking at. So, I have been going back now that I've seen what you put out. I went back to try to see what does everybody say when they are asked directly about the hash value, about if the data was messed with or whatever. And yes, to your point, it is exactly that, right? I can't testify one
Right,
way
and
or the other.
Whiffen changed his story between trial 1 and trial 2 where the hash value is concerned. And I think it's because Richard Green's motion came up between the two trials, which proved the tab UID was different across all of those tabs. The whole time Ian Whiffen's putting this theory across that this is all the same tab, the tabs are not the same tab because the ID changes. That tab has a unique identifier, and that's what changes. So we know it's not the same tab. So Whiffen changed his story between the two trials. So in the first trial, he said that he didn't hash verify what he was analyzing. He was just given a PDF. He saw the number on the PDF for the grayscale imaging, said blah, blah, blah. He looked at the file at match. So as far as he was concerned, it matched. But that's not how you hash verify a file. It's actually done through the algorithm, through the software. So you get the zip file and you get the number, and then you open the zip file with your hashing software like Graykey. You enter the number, and then Graykey does the final algorithm and says, yes, this file matches exactly. So anytime you change anything in that file, like even one character in that file gets changed, that completely changes the hash algorithm number. So,
right. But what if you're given, what if I do that? So what if I change the file with a new hash number and then I send you that? Can you see that there had been tampering?
The hash number is how you tell if the tampering happened. So I did this demonstration on just an image file of a koala. I opened up a photograph of a koala and I changed 1 pixel to white in its eye. And then I saved it. And I showed you how it gets 2 completely different hash values according to that 1 pixel change in the image file. That's the kind of thing we're talking about here. So if you extract the phone, if you're the police, and this is how the police normally do it, and this is how Ian Whiffen should have normally done it, any forensic analyst should do it this way. They get the zip file, they open it in Graykey or in Celebrite or whatever. It asks for the hash key. You give it the hash key, which also connects it to a plist file. And between those two external things, it runs an algorithm and says, yes, this file is identical to these values you provided. That's the way it should be done. You shouldn't be looking at a PDF going, yeah, those numbers look right to me, off we go. That's not how you verify it. But I did a video on Richard Green's Easter eggs between the the two trials, he put a report in, and I did an Easter egg video on what he was hinting at or some of it he said outright, and you picked up some of it where he was talking about the tab UIDs, that that they were actually different tab UIDs and stuff like that. You pulled some of that out of his files. So I did a whole video, a probably 2-hour video on all of the Easter eggs that were in that particular report.
Wow.
But they were the main tips like that he gave us during between the two trials. So when Ian Whiffen came back to trial again, he then turns around and says to Hank that the zip file was uploaded to the Celebrite server, and then he verified it there on the Celebrite server.
Stop it.
He got the key, the hash key, and the plist files to unlock it, but the defense still didn't have them at that point. The defense still didn't have those ingredients to unlock it themselves so that they could do their own analyzing. At some stage, they got something. I don't know what it was, but I mean, they got access to the file, but I think it was already unlocked by the time they got access to it. I think they were just looking at an unlocked file.
That's right. That's what happened. Right. Richard Green demands that they send him the full image, but that's not the first thing that he gets. Now, I don't know about Karen's team before that Richard Green gets brought in, but when he gets brought in, the first thing they send him in March of 2023 is some kind of file that is not complete, and it does not have a hash value. He then goes back
essentially an unlocked file where we couldn't prove that it was tampered with or not. They got the unlocked file.
Right. That's right. And it wasn't complete. It wasn't even a whole extraction. And then a month later, they gave him a full image file, but it still was a PDF of a hash value. It wasn't what you're talking about. Like they sent it separate.
They did, yeah. So then we also had Hyde get up on the stand and say, well, she actually did get the plist, the key, and the zip all together, and that she did actually do that full extraction. But what she testified to was that she couldn't be sure that before she got that extraction, before someone wrapped it up into that extraction, that someone hadn't tampered with it.
Right. That was my question. Could you essentially give it a new hash value, repackage it, and then it looks like it's not been tampered with because I just repackaged it and then gave it a new number?
Right. So when it's sent to the defense, and this is the hash value, it has to stay at that hash value as you're proving that it was tampered with, right? So it depends on when the defense was sent their hash value. We know that they weren't sent all of his information until the very last minute. Like the Commonwealth held off with a lot of information till the very last minute. So we know that the point that Whiffen and Hyde got it probably did match, and that there probably wasn't any reason for eyebrow. That if they'd have done this way back at the start, like right back when discovery should have been handed over in the first deadlines that the judge gave and before the first trial, then we would have been able to say, okay, the hash values don't match with what you're showing us now in trial 2.0. So it depends on the timing of it. So
yeah. Right. And that could also be part of why they kept pushing it further and further, right? They kept delaying turning it over.
So they could keep manipulating the database according to whatever it was that Richard Green kept finding in his reports. Yes.
That's right. Yeah. So, and from what you could see, right? So from what you could see and what Ian Whiffen told us through his assessment of when these timestamps were happening, right? He determines that January 31st was the earliest time that somebody was in there, like at 6 p.m. or something, messing with the data. And then
he kind of proved the opposite, but he said that, yes.
Okay.
That is what he was trying to say.
Yes. But but what he actually said was, I guess, the same thing, but sort of stressing a different point, which is somebody did change the data on that day.
Yes. So he was trying to say the data was changed throughout the day through normal processes within the system. If that was the case, then we would have a different salt value every time that a record was accessed. So the system will run its little script of code and saying we're doing this, and then that would get a salt value. This is what we did on this record. But then, a couple of seconds later, it runs the script again for a different record, then we'd get a different salt value. The fact that Jessica Hyde showed us that they were all the same salt value and they were all the same page number, that's where we come down to. You just started echoing again.
Oh, I did?
Yes,
Oh, that's
sir.
interesting. Let me see if I can switch my.
Tweak that same setting
Yep,
again.
I'm going to go right back to it.
StreamYard's bad for this.
I know. StreamYard is like the worst. Okay, let's try this.
Right, the middle sentence.
How is that?
Yep,
Okay,
that's good. All right. What was I saying? I'm sorry. I just totally lost track because I can hear myself.
The salt table. Right. Yeah. Yes.
The salt table basically proved that they went to the same filing cabinet, to the same file, to the exact same page inside the file, the same record inside that file, and had 29 attempts at trying to change it. That's what Jessica Hyde proved. So between the two of them, you had to see both of their exhibits together, which is why in my videos I concatenated it into a single table to show you because what Ian Whiffen had done was he'd spread it out over so many exhibits. We got 2 records from History DB. Then a little while later in his yak, he gives you 2 more records from the History DB, and then a little while later you see 10 records from the History DB, and they were all put into evidence as separate exhibits. So and then he leaves out stuff that's not supporting his argument, and so on and so forth. And so you had to put both of their exhibits and their testimonies together into one, and then to just concatenate the data into one so that you could see what it was that they were looking at. The only one I can't be sure we didn't have all of it is the knowledge CDB. I'm not sure that we had all of that data because it feels like they whittled that right down to how many records do I have here?
Wow.
32 records, and we know for sure that there was a lot more than 32 records, but but through the knowledge C, we were unable to find anything like really identifying, because we know they were messing with the timestamps, so those aren't really reliable in the knowledge C database. But what it doesn't do is give us any sequential ordering like the other tables do. So it's the only one I'm not sure we didn't get all of the data for.
Because you can't see where things are supposed to be.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. So, and why is that? I mean, why does knowledge C not do that?
Because it's recording a completely different thing. The knowledge C is recording what's going on between the apps. So you might have an app is open to talk on WhatsApp, or you might have an app that's open to talk on iMessages, or an app to make a phone call, or an app to, it goes on and on. It's tracking apps being opened and closed. If one of those apps happens to be a browser, it could be Chrome or Safari or anything like. If one of those happens to be a browser, then it might record the browser state at that specific time. What's the URL that's showing on the screen? It could be whatever tab is in the foreground. It will just show that URL. So knowledge C is tracking the app behavior. And so in that context, you really do only need the timestamps. This can also be edited if you know that knowledge C is one of those databases. This is forensic knowledge. The person who did this tampering had forensic knowledge, knowing we need the knowledge C database to be tampered with, And we know that that can be backed up with the history DB, and we also know that that can be backed up with the browser state DB.
Right.
Yeah,
They had to know what they needed to change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the difference between them all is knowledge C is recording the apps and what's going on with the apps. So we don't necessarily we don't care about tabs. We don't care about what's going on inside the app, just what the app's doing on the phone.
Right.
And then the browser state DB is recording the state of the browser, which tab's in front, which tab's getting backgrounded, foregrounded, and so on. And then you've got history DB, which is recording the history of what's happening inside of each tab. That's the events inside the tabs. They also have sessions as well, like the session recording the events going on inside the session. So there's multiple tables that you can refer to, match between what this table is saying on this row. If it doesn't match what's happening on this row, it's the absence of things that are the red flags. And all you hear through Whiffen's entire testimony is the absence of all these things.
Wow.
The absence of this made me think blah, blah. The absence of that made me think roo-roo.
Oh, my God.
The point is, though, from a forensic standpoint, it's the absence of all those things he mentioned that are the red flag that someone was tampering.
Right. Things don't just magically disappear out of these databases. I mean, that's sort of, it's funny. That's also what Garino testifies. It's sort of like they're all trying to say that in order to say, well, Jennifer McCabe would never have had the skill set or the ability to, through her phone interface, be able to delete this and then all these calls or whatever. Right. This essentially, they're saying it would have had to have been somebody who went in and meddled inside the data.
Right. And we wouldn't know that if Jessica Hyde hadn't given us the little salt trail. If she hadn't given us that, there's no way Alexis Kay and I would have clicked that this is what was going on. It was only through her additional input that we put some of the pieces together. So Ian's testimony by itself had a lot of holes in it, but to definitively put a poker through his holes, that was really hard to do. And there was a dozen different ways you could have done it. It would have come down to, battle of the experts thing that we talk about all the time. But what Jessica Hyde did was she gave us the keys to put this together. Like it was all a bunch of synopsis before Jessica Hyde gave us her table. That was the key that put it all together. So,
wow. So, and then this is, I think, probably the most interesting moment across these two videos is when you have the table up, which I think I have a screenshot of, maybe even that the one that shows, and you take us through it, each of the rows where there are these like deliberate sessions that you can see someone is trying to get rid of this tab, the proof of this Google search. And they're trying, and you see that there's like 60, and then it goes down to like 30, and there's these 3 different extended sessions. It's wild to see.
Right. It was through Jessica Hyde's own commit column in her table, where she's showing us the page is 2752, same through all 16 records over 29 commits. It's exactly the same page, meaning the same file cabinet. It's exactly the same salt, so it's happening in the same session ID. So this isn't completely different sessions as Ian Whiffen described it. It's the exact same session for every single one of them. The session number is 4044, and it's and number 25 commit right through to number 54, which is numbered sequentially all the way through. So we know it was 29 attempts. And we also know that it wasn't from the live database. We know that this all came from the wall because she has an extra column there saying whether or not it was live, and it was false. So we know it came from the file because of that extra column that she included.
So explain that to us.
Do you want me to throw it on the screen so that
definitely do.
All right, let me grab it. Share screen.
Yes,
Thank you for
fascinating stuff, right? I mean, it's wow. Just
there
how
you go.
lucky we are to have somebody who knows how to make sense of all of this. And it's so frustrating to me, the arrogance, like the hubris on these two, that they throw all of this out there and don't think that any of us are going to be smart enough to figure it out.
Exactly. You need to put it on the stage for us
Okay.
at your end.
How do I do that? Oh, here it is.
Down
Yay!
Yep, right now.
Beautiful.
All right. So this is the table. This is my version of her table because it was really blurry. And I can't be sure that all of my numbers in the wall and what were the two columns? Wall and offset. I can't be sure that my numbers are actually are totally accurate until we see the exhibits. They won't release Trial 2.0 exhibits. So I got this from a blurry file. I squinted, I zoomed in, I zoomed out. I did what I could.
You're amazing. Wow, that had to be one hell of a
Most of it's
job.
pretty accurate. Those columns were really freaking blurry. So these two columns here, so that one there, some of those could be a little bit out. That might not even be 660. That might be 650. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So those were the frames that Ian Whiffen was talking about. But this one here, that page number is the same filing cabinet, the same record in the same filing cabinet every single time was targeted here. And then this one here is the session, that it was all done in a single session. That would be, say, I opened it in SQLite editor and I left the editor open and I gave it, this many shots at trying to fix that problem. And I just left it open. I kept it open until I finally got, the result that I was after. And obviously the result here that this person was after was knocking the tab index order to make it look like 0 being a backgrounded tab to 10 being a foregrounded tab. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, explain that more. So 0 background meaning what?
They're just layers. They're layers. So 0 means it's on the bottom layer. That means it was open first. If it's 6, then it's the 6 layers up from that bottom layer. So it was open next. And then if it's 10, it's been put in the foreground of all of the tabs, depending on what the biggest number is, I guess. But it's just order from left to right. If you see your tabs across the screen, you can see my tabs here. Hang on, let me just put this back up. All right, see I've got all these tabs.
Oh, yeah.
That's a tab. That's a tab. That's a tab. Every time I do that, it's putting a tab on top. Do you follow?
Yeah.
That's what those numbers are saying. So.
Okay.
But this is what it looks like, that every single one of those commits in this column here were all attempts to adjust this tab index, basically, to make it look like it was backgrounded, because that's the story in trial 2 that everyone was trying to say, oh no, that tab was just brought to the foreground, or it was just sent to the background. That's all that is.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So, but they had to then she had to have already decided they were going to do that before they met in Ian Whiffen, right? Somebody had to know enough to know to do this. Does that make sense?
Right. So this is what the person knew, just showing you it with the tables. They didn't know about this shit. All right. This is obvious, or they would have removed it. They would have flushed the wall files. So
they didn't know about the temporary storage files.
Right. Do you want me to just quickly give the basic explanation of that?
Yes, help us with that.
If you have, say this isn't the system doing it. Say this is 2 people want to edit the same record in a database, and they're both in there at the same time. So you got a team that works on this database. You're both in there trying to edit the same record at the same time. What's going to happen is you both hit save at the same time. So the person who's over here hit save, their data gets pushed into the database. this person over here hit save and it conflicts with the person who just hit save previously. Like, even if there's a multitude of billions of seconds apart, one's going to come before the other. So it creates orphaned records. So, in normal language, an orphan is without a parent. So what it does is it disconnects it from its primary ID, its parent ID.
Yep.
And leaves a record floating around the database that has no association with anything, no relationship to anything.
It's just there.
It's just hanging around with no particular association. So it creates orphan records, and that's a waste of space, especially on a small device like your phone.
Yep.
On a large computer, you don't notice those things, but on a small device, you do. It takes up a lot of space when you've got orphan records.
Yeah.
So what this person didn't realize is that in order to prevent orphan records, all databases, not just SQL, all databases have this temporary location where they rack everything up in a queue. And in that queue, no matter which order two people press saved in, they will be plugged into the queue at different times, and they will still be associated with a parent record. The first one will get pushed and saved. The second one comes off the queue and goes, well, we'll push that and save that. So we don't end up with any orphaned records. We end up with one record that got edited. So that's what the write ahead log does. It's not entirely for preventing orphaning, but that's the best way I can describe it to you guys without head fucking you.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So there's a lot more that it does, but that's just a basic example of one of its functions.
Right. Somebody explained it to me, like, the old days when I was making a Word document and I would lose whatever I had just saved. This sort of prevents that. If like your phone crashes or something, that it allows, right? That allows for you to always have whatever you're working on.
When you open Word back up after it all crashed and it says, hey, I've got a recovered file here. That's what the wall helps with that as well. So it's got dozens of uses, but you're following.
So is there no way to, but you said actually, that's not true. You said that it was pretty easy would have been easy if you had known about it. So they didn't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They could have just opened. There's actually
wow.
There's actually a command that you can issue in SQL language, a command line command. You can issue it and it would flush the WAR file, completely blank it. It would push everything to where it's supposed to go. Or you can just close the database that you're working in. That would also have the same effect. This person didn't realize that they needed to close the database. So what we're seeing here in this table here from Jessica Hyde is they kept hitting save. And it wasn't till this point here on this record that the database actually got closed and the final, it's not commit that I'm looking for. What's the bloody word? It just fell out of my head. I hate it when words jump out of my head like that. But the final saving of the database happened there. But everything else on that last record. Yep.
Okay.
So that was the final, because they got it down to 0. Clearly they were checking. They were issuing the command. So what this shows is we issued the command to push it down and it didn't work because there was another tab in the way. There was another tab in that position. So they issued the next command. It still hasn't pushed it down because there's another tab in the way. They push it down one more, still hasn't worked. So they're not seeing this in a WAR file. They're seeing this over here in browser state. Did it work?
Wow.
Did that? Nope, that didn't work.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then here they pushed it like multiple times, and whatever was in the way, there was multiple tabs in the way where it wasn't dropping. So they just kept doing it. They're still checking in here. Has it dropped yet? Have we got that? Have we got that order in where we want it yet? That's this column here in this table. That's what they're looking at. Did it drop to where we want it? Nope, it hasn't dropped yet. So they keep attempting it until they get it down here to 0. Then they have a look over here and they're like, did that work? have I got a 0 here? And we can't see a 0 there, so maybe that didn't work. So they punch it one more time, and then they exit out of the database. And that final exit is the one thing that finishes up what's going on in the WAR file here. I think they didn't exit. I think they just hit the last save and didn't exit. But this is just me thinking. I can't prove any of this, so
But
this is
that's the
just me
reason
thinking.
why we have the delete. You're saying that's the reason why we have that deleted wall file.
Right. If they had have exited out, all of these would have disappeared and got pushed out to the database.
Wow.
So
Wow.
essentially, they know about this happening in the background. You need to have a certain amount of education in how databases work to understand that this is a feature of a database, that they do this stuff in the background so that you can't orphan files, or so that you can recover files when something doesn't complete right, or the power goes out, or the battery dies, or whatever. I mean, it's more important in devices where you're on, battery power and limited space. Is really important.
So I want to answer this question to Stiley Arts. I think the answer, if I'm understanding you correctly, Aussie, is that the answer is she didn't. She did not Google. She didn't look at any of those other things. So those things were placed in there so that she could eventually later say, oh, no, I just came home and I was looking at the basketball scores and I was looking at this video. And, they essentially put those where that Google search was so that we would all be like, oh, see, clearly she wasn't Googling how long to die in the cold, because who looks at, basketball scores and then flips over and looks at how long to die in the cold.
Right. Well, interestingly, when you put the other data together with this data, like her watch data and other data, you start getting a fuller picture of what she was actually doing, and it's not what this data shows us. So if you wanted to put up Alexis K's little screenshot in place of mine, I will drop mine off.
Yes.
If you put up Alexis K, that's what she's demonstrating in her little demonstrative. She just posted this on X for those who aren't on X. So she says, for everyone asking, why would Jen have made that Google search if John O'Keefe was already passed away?
Oh, yeah.
You see from this activity that maybe he wasn't.
No. I mean, I already have the answer. I think I have the answer to that. I don't know if it's the right answer, but I have an answer that works for me, which is, everybody in that house was a first responder. And the only way that what they were trying to do was make it look like he wasn't dead. And they would have all known that if somebody's body temperature is 80 and they're outside. In other words, there's only two ways to drop a body temperature. One is to be dead. The other is to be outside in the snow. So it was really quite smart. Do you see what I'm saying? It was very, very smart of them.
Yes.
I think they were trying to make it look like he just fell. Sorry, go ahead.
We're still surmising, even using Alexis's little demonstration. We're still surmising. This is not hard and fast anything, and you only need to get two experts up on the stand to go, yeah, that's not how it works. This is how it works, like we saw happen in the two trials. So
right, but I'm just simply speculating as to, because they're asking sort of like, why would somebody do that if he was still alive? And I think to me, the answer is really obvious, and it was smart. It wasn't he was absolutely dead. I mean, to me, just listening to the experts, Dr. LaFosada, even the Commonwealth's Dr. Wolf. I mean, they were all very clear.
My question is more specific. Did Jen know he was dead? We know that Brian probably knew. We know that Higgy probably knew, because they're both first responders. But did Jen know? And that's what this data probably indicates, that she probably didn't. They're not just going to be straight away ringing everyone up going, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead, telling everyone. Do you know what I mean? Maybe they knew, but did Jen know? And that's a completely different question as to whether they knew. You get what I'm saying?
I do. To me, the answer is absolutely she did. But I mean, she had to have, because she had to have, and I can explain why I think that. But take me through this. Let's go through this first, and we can talk about that part after.
Right. So this is looking at all of her phone logs. I'm not sure that her phone, I don't think her watch data is in this. Can you pop that comment? Thank
Oh,
you
yes. I'm
for
sorry. Yes, I can. Hold on.
Gracie. It's not that it wasn't an important comment.
No, of
We'll
course.
come back. So yeah, 227, when all this activity is supposedly going on, and there's like 8 different tabs open and closed in a period of 7 seconds. She's supposed to be texting John as well. Oh, sorry, that's 1227, not 227. I
It's
apologize.
12:27. Yeah, these are the texts, right? Pull up behind me,
Right.
those texts.
Those texts, right. So yeah,
Yes.
right up till 1242, calling
Yes.
him, texting him. Then the Safari activity begins at 1242. So she's also texting John. Seconds later, the tabs start opening. That's 4021.
Mhm.
Then she closes 4021 and views tab 4022. And then she closes tab 4022 and uses tab 4023
Okay.
to navigate Hockey Mock Sports. And then she visits the different Hockey Mocks. Those are out of order for the dates. I don't think she did any of those, but that's what it looks like for whoever it is that's trying to cover it up. And then, maybe she did do it at these times, and then they copied and pasted those over to these records to make it look innocent.
I see.
I don't know.
Okay.
Safari activity ends, so it's closed sometime between 12:42 and 1:59 a.m.
Okay.
12:43. So is 1 second after she still looking at Hockey Mock Sports URL. She's calling John. She's texting John. These are all like seconds apart.
I see. It's not
This is
possible that they're happening all at the same time, is really the
correct.
right. I mean, it couldn't be.
This is not human activity. This is physically impossible for a human. So
Right. I see what the point is here.
reload Safari from a completely closed state, which is
I see.
Alex is assuming traveling home from 34 Fairview. I didn't get to this point of assumptions that people are coming to, but I do get where Alexis comes to that assumption from this particular sequence of events.
I
So
see.
1:59, tab 4023, the Hockey Mock is reloaded. The only problem I have with making assumptions like this based on that activity is that we don't know what freaking activity happened when, because we don't know what they copied and pasted over what timestamps. We don't know.
It sounds like we do actually have a pretty good idea that, I mean, we can't say definitively or exactly, I guess, is better way to say it. But
We have no idea.
it sounds like there's pretty good evidence based on other activity in the phone, based on, and even from things that she has stated outright, right? That there is some idea that these were essentially a few days old, that the ozone, the hockamock, and the what's the third one? It's the basketball, the hockey, and the other, what's the third?
Raining Men.
The Raining Men. Thank you. Yeah, it seems to me like those 3 essentially, people do that in their testimony when they're lying, right? Like they bring up something from a day before and they make that what happened. They just make it happen at a later time or at a different time. It's really, really common.
Trial 1, that was 3 days before, 4 days before. We saw that in trial 1. We all picked up on that in trial 1, didn't we?
Right.
That the Raining Men tab was way before.
Exactly. We all picked up on it. That's right. Yep. Yeah. So to me, what this is showing is basically this isn't human activity. This is sort of like theoretically what, we're being asked to believe, but that it is not possible for all these things to be happening at the same time. Basically,
yeah. It's not possible.
So
So that part we can be sure of, that a lot of this is not, first of all, human interaction. It's not physically possible. Second of all, that they don't, that the most of the red flags that Ian Whiffen picked up were missing data, data that doesn't match, and that indicates manipulation, not what he was saying it indicates.
Right.
And then thirdly, looking at other activity like this particular thing is, that it's just not, it backs up that it's not humanly possible.
Yeah. Wow.
There are things we can't be sure of, but that's where I sort of caution people not to be so sure that they're so sure, because we don't know what timestamps they inserted here. We don't know which one of the timestamps is real. What we do know is record numbers. The record numbers have to be real. That's the only thing we can be sure about. The tab UID and the record numbers have to be real.
Right.
Because otherwise they would show gaps and issues in the actual tab system. There's another table. There's a completely other table in the SQL database that keeps track of the last number, the last row ID. So if we were up to 4023, this other table would say we're up to row 4023. So if someone tried to delete row 4023 and that gap shows up in the data, then you would be able to refer to this other table and say, well, what was the next cab off the rank? It was 4024. And 4024 is missing here, or whichever one it is that's missing here. So there's other tables that you could have used to establish that there were or weren't any gaps. Ian Whiffen testifies there were no gaps, and I know how there were no gaps because they just copied and pasted. They didn't actually delete any rows. They left the row number, they left the tab UID, they just copied the timestamp and the URL from a different record.
Right. That's right. So, okay, a couple of things about this. I don't know. If any of this just ridiculous question wise, I apologize ahead of time because I don't understand sort of phone extraction entirely as a concept. I understand it's essentially a file of your phone. But so from that phone file, so to me, based on Nicholas Garino's testimony, and I'm not even close to done investigating this because I've just been looking at I've spent so many hours down the Jen McCabe rabbit hole over the last week. I feel like I have like a kinship with Jen's psyche in a really
like I
way. Oh, it's so painful. This is why I didn't do anything on her testimony, because it pains me to be doing it, but I have been doing it. So I have all these different avenues I have to go down. I have extensively looked at Garino, and it is quite clear that he did not do the phone extraction. It is quite clear that Kerry did not have her phone turned over, that those two extractions were done. Now, we also know from Kerry Roberts, who, depending on our timeline tonight, we may end up taking a look at, we'll see. But according to Kerry Roberts, she spends the days like February 2nd before they turn over their phones, because according to Jen, it happens on February 2nd, I believe, right? I think that's the day that Karen is arrested. The two things allegedly happened at the same time that the phones were turned over. Kerry and Jen are at Jen's house on that day and we know that because I believe either Proctor calls and they have an interview, or the cops come to the house and Kerry's there, so they interview her a second time.
Yep.
So
I agree with that.
Right.
Timeline.
Could very easily have been Matt, right?
Yep. Absolutely. See, I think Matt was working on the phones from the 31st through to Karen's arrest. And that in itself is a red flag. Why, before she's even got any discovery and isn't even pointing fingers in any direction, are you acting like she's pointing fingers in your direction already? Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh my God, so true. So hopefully everybody understands that point, right? Like, they were already hiding her phone stuff before there was ever anybody saying that they did anything wrong. There was nobody saying, you guys are the ones that we're going to take a look at, or something is suspicious. I mean, Brian Albert's name was never even uttered to that point till Aiden.
I think some dude popped into Yanetti's office to tell him something that he knew had gone on.
Right. Yeah. The defense knew.
That's when they started going, wait a second. And then they started looking into the possibility that people in the house were involved. And that was definitely, months after Karen Reed was arrested. This is all happening before she's arrested. So,
way before, right?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
the January 31st, we're talking about 2 days after John O'Keefe dies. I think right? He hadn't
I
even had a
think that
funeral.
I think that some of her own cover up shit that she was trying to do on her phone was that day. Was that
Oh.
very day while she was sitting there with the O'Keefes and trying to make up her stories and getting them on side. I think she was doing stuff that day with individual history. And then later that night, Matt's gone, well, I don't really want to name anyone, but someone told her, yeah, that doesn't exactly work because there's all these other databases that keep that information. So they had to go and do a complete
Right.
tidy up of her
Okay.
bullshit.
So just to be clear, try to reiterate that, and we talked about this a little before, it does look like she tried through the user interface of the phone to delete the
Yeah.
Safari search that she had done, but it wasn't going to be sufficient to really delete it altogether.
Correct. So in Safari, and I know this was a feature in the iOS 15 app. A lot of people get confused because she had an iOS 11. How is
Yeah.
she on iOS 15? That didn't come out until blah blah. Well, the point is that when you buy a phone, you just keep doing your updates, and so
Oh, of course.
you can have an iOS 11 and you've updated it to 15 because you've had it for that long. You just keep hitting the update button.
Right.
So iOS 15 did actually give you single record history. You could go in there and delete the history on a single record. You could just do a little search on a keyword that you thought you were looking up at the time, and then check the box and hit delete, and that would delete a single record. And you could do a deeper delete where it would delete cookies and plists or your cache files. You could do that sort of delete as well. You can do that on pretty much any device nowadays, but on the iOS 15, that was all available. So she thought because I did that type of delete where I removed all the cookies and I removed everything from my phone from that record, that it was going to be sufficient enough. Someone else has come with the forensic experience to tell her, no, that doesn't delete everything from the phone. We need to go deeper. So by that evening, someone's in her phone. I don't know that it was that evening. I'm just going by what Whiffen proved in his own demonstration that something was happening at 10 that evening.
Yeah.
Between what was it? It was 16-hour period, which is what Jessica Hyde's records show us. That whole 16-hour period, someone was in there with an editor doing save, and then they closed it, and then they probably handed it over, thinking what needed to be done was done.
Yep, and I'm
So
sure that was like, oh, I'm such a good guy, Kerry. I'll do your extraction too. This way you can keep your phone, right?
Yeah. And here's the thing: they really bulldozed Kerry because they didn't, as you pointed out in your last video, they didn't do all of this doctoring to her incriminating records. They just went, yeah, have her old records. So they kind of backstabbed her in a sense.
Well, they
With that
used
as
her,
well.
right? They've used her. I hate to be a bearer of bad news, but I mean, I think they've used her all along. And I went back earlier today and was watching Kerry Roberts, and I'll have to tell you, it was very interesting knowing everything that, your videos, what I've been thinking and talking about, and just really seeing this as though I am Jennifer McCabe. I make that Google search and I am desperate now to, eradicate it. And now I have to befriend Kerry Roberts, in order to try to manipulate the narrative longer term, right? Because I think in their mind, she's so legitimate. She's a really dear friend. She's close to the family. If Kerry buys it, then they're home free in Jen and the Alberts' minds. And it's very, very just horrible to even think about. Like the idea of this is troubling
I
enough,
think
but
Kerry was their ticket to the O'Keefe's hearts. I think that's what Kerry represented to them, the ticket to their hearts. We need
exactly.
them on side, but we don't know them, but she does.
Yep.
So,
and they know them now, right? I mean, Jen has kept them. Oh, I'm so concerned. It's not even just the O'Keefes, but his children. You know, Kaylee and
right.
Patrick. I mean, it's
Rain. It's about to start raining, so I'm going to get noisy at my end because I got a tin roof. So please excuse my noise.
Of course. Yes. I mean, you're on the other side of the world, which is just really cool to think about. For those of you that don't know, Sydney, Australia is 16 hours ahead of us. So you're like having a whole tomorrow already. You really are.
We are indeed. A rainy tomorrow.
Rainy tomorrow. Wow. Okay.
So, yeah.
So I want to ask.
When we do,
go ahead.
Sorry. Go. No, you go.
Um,
Ask.
I was going to ask. So people, the next day searches, the 623 and 624. So all along to this point, people have thought somebody had told her, okay, just Google it again the next morning, and then we'll say that was the search at 220, whatever. But that's not what you've discovered.
No,
Am I right?
I discovered that they were just copied and pasted records that they copied from another record at a different time and just pasted a different timestamp into that record and a different URL into that record to try and mess it all up and make it look different.
And what makes you say that? I mean,
the fact that it doesn't match in any other databases, that there's no corresponding records. The only corresponding records in the other databases are from previous days. They're not from the 29th. They're from way back to the 25th. None of them correspond with the 29th in the other databases.
Wow.
That's what gives it away.
Wow. Okay. So the only search, therefore, that's legitimate is the one that they were desperate to hide, which is the one at 227.
No, I think at 10:33, she tried to do the how long tit die in the Kikut. That stupid one.
or CIKD.
I think she did try to do that one to try and cover her tracks.
Yep.
One of those, but it wasn't at 6:23 or 6:24. This was like way later. This is like 10:33. This is like 10 in the morning. We see that jumped out at me in the first trial. That specific record jumped out at me in the first trial because they're all focused on the 227. Next minute, AJ froze up, the 220, the 10 a.m. stuff. And I was like, get the hell out of here. She's searching it. That looks like she was trying to add to the confusion through her own phone interface. But it doesn't match anything in the corresponding databases, which still indicates manipulation.
That makes sense, though. I mean, if she was Googling it at 10:30, because at 10:30 a.m., she's sitting in a room full of people in the kitchen at the Alberts house at 34th Fairview. Right?
Right. Sorry, I was muted and didn't realize. Yes, that's exactly right.
Right.
Yeah. So, the whole comparing what was and wasn't there in the records is the red flag that Ian Whiffen should have been saying. As a forensic expert, he should be saying the fact that we can't correlate all this data means something is going on, right?
Well,
but he didn't. He goes, we can't correlate all this data because the system was doing stuff.
He went as far as to change physical analyzer, right? I mean, he changed their product to try to support his buddy Jen.
Right. So the only thing that was really changed was they're just not displaying it in their interface. Like the data's still there. They're just showing. They're just not showing that specific timestamp to mean anything in particular anymore. So it's only in their user interface that they've moved it. But the other companies, they do acknowledge that this timestamp forwards and backgrounding stuff only in Knowledge C could cause an issue as far as it being ambiguous as to what it means.
Right.
This is forensic. It is accepted forensic sort of ambiguity.
Right.
But the reason this is not that is because of the typos in the different searches, the way the records don't match each other in the different databases, the backwards in time for later records in the sequence. All of that does not spell ambiguity in the timestamp, whether it was foregrounded or backgrounded. That's a completely different thing altogether. So he essentially spent the entire time gaslighting us, and then switched it all up in the second trial, because what he said in the first trial, Jen didn't make this search at 6:23 or 24. She shut it down before she made it, before that search went through. He then turns around in trial 2 and says, oh no, she did make that search. And the reason we know that is because of the UTF-8 return from the server and the language and all that extra string that came back from the server proves that she did complete the search. So he switched it up in the second trial as to what he was trying to say. But the jury doesn't know that. The jury doesn't know what was said in trial 1. We know what was said in trial 1. We know that he's lying in trial 2 because it contradicts what he said in trial 1, but the jury doesn't know that.
Wow. So there was such a concerted effort to not only try to come up with a way to explain that search away, but to also do so in a way that even a person who has very little understanding of any of this could make sense of it enough to say, oh yeah, that probably didn't happen at that time.
Right. It was something that Andrea and I discussed in some detail when she was on my channel. We talked about, at what point can we be sure? Because we can be sure in our own suspicion of what's going on, and we can say, well, this had to be Matt, or this had to be Guarino, or this had to be blah blah. But as Andrea pointed out, you just get another expert on there to dispute that, and you've got the same thing. The jury's not being told the truth. The jury doesn't know testified to in trial 1 and trial 2, and yeah, you still got battle of the experts, essentially. And she said, if I was to represent the McAlberts with what you've got so far, then I would just be doing what Karen Reid did, and that's a third-party culprit defense. Putting it back on her. You get what I'm saying?
Somebody else did it. Somebody else was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not hard. Well, it is hard science. What I have proven is that it's math. This is math. You cannot go backwards in time and have forwards sequence numbers. That can't happen.
Right.
That is mathematically impossible.
Right.
But all you need another expert to say, well, you could if and mindfuck everybody, gaslight everybody. Sorry, I've been swearing a lot on your channel, and I
No, I don't
apologize.
care. Yeah, swear away. No, of course, no problem. That's why we do it late.
But yeah, the whole gaslighting thing is what they're paid to do. And the other thing I asked Andrea was, can the experts be held liable because they're deliberately gaslighting? Like, we can prove that they were deliberately gaslighting because this doesn't add up to that. And she was like, well, no, you can't, because they have a type of immunity the same way that the prosecution does, or that the cops doing the extractions do. They all got a certain type of immunity. So can't even do it. So,
well, but you can ruin the reputation, though.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. Yeah.
We are taking Celebrate down. So
and let me tell you something. If Ian Whiffen hadn't gone on that little interview with the Celebrate, spokesgirl there, Heather, I
he wouldn't have
started
triggered
looking at it.
Exactly, he triggered us.
He triggered us all. Yeah, it's like how that's what these people do. They just keep doing that over and over again. Like, just shut up and go away, and we'll go away. But we won't. But I mean, they don't make it any better for themselves. So tell me about
for me personally, when I go away, when John gets justice, that's when I go away. But
I had the same thought as I said it. Exactly. So the phone calls, do you believe that those are accurate? I mean, those were deleted, right? Tell us about what you know, if anything, about those. What do you think about those?
I have done multiple deep dives into the phone calls, but because we don't have our hands on the actual extraction, they're a lot harder to work out what was going on.
Were they actually made? Did someone just edit that database as well?
Right.
So, because that's all kept in the database as well. That's a different style of storage to what we've been talking about with the Safari iOS and the knowledge. See, it's a different storage, but it is editable. It's just stored in text, so you can edit it. But I haven't, unless I've got my hands on the actual extraction, I can't make head nor tails of what's going on with the phone calls. What I do know is that you're just going by what those phone calls, the timestamps on those phone calls say. It seems like Jen McCabe was doing a whole lot of worrying about John before anybody knew he was missing.
Right. The Google searches.
Outside of the Google searches, I'm talking about her calling him and sending him texts. There's this one every second, and then there's this 8-minute gap where there's nothing, and then it's just bam, she's hitting him up again, like bam, 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 bam. That's what the phone record showed, just the texts and the phone calls.
Yep.
So nobody knows he's missing, and yet she's hitting him up, bam, 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 bam.
Right.
What's she trying to do there? That's a lot of covering her own footprints there, I think.
Right.
Pretend like he didn't turn up. The guy never came in the house kind of attitude.
Right. And they were deleted. Right. I mean, some of those were deleted also.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's hard, was it because they were looking for the phone? Was it to try to, like you're saying, make it look like where was he? He never came into the house. To me, go ahead.
So I did it again. I had a couple of theories on that, but I'll let you do yours first.
No. I want to hear what they are. Tell me what they are.
Okay, so they start hitting him, all right? And his phone goes flying. He's already half out of his shoes. Like this ambush has obviously happened at the door. He's half out of his shoes, got one shoe on, he's got one shoe off. They start hitting him, his phone goes flying, and they don't realize until later that his phone's not on him and his shoe's missing, right? They've got everyone out of the house and there's a shoe left. Holy fuck, who owns this shoe? Oh, it's his shoe. Do you know what I'm saying? Like this is all after the fact.
Yeah.
That shoe turned up later. We can tell that because the photographs show that the shoe wasn't there when Cert was taking the photographs, and then when all of a sudden it is there. So we know that happened with the shoe, but with the phone, I'm assuming she was trying to find the phone. So you got to ring the phone to find it. I'm assuming she was trying to do that at some stage. And that was that 8-minute period of quiet. No one was calling or texting. And then all of a sudden, bam, she hits his phone up like multiple times again. That's what I think she was doing there.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I would have said. Just, exactly. It's interesting. So I'm pulling a lot from her. It's very interesting to me. I will tell you that I feel like she really wants to tell us what happened because there's so much in the second, 4 days of trial testimony. It's like by the end of it, she's just sort of like talking. She's saying things that are so incriminating, like that statement. I don't know if you caught it in the clip where she's like, no. What happened inside is entirely separate from what happened outside. And she's trying to explain that to Alan Jackson because she's saying, no. Because she reached out to Julie Nagel and asked if she knew they were making their timeline, right? And so she reaches out to Julie Nagel and says, hey, can you give me, the time that your brother texted you? So she's trying to piece together the quote timeline, gets that from Julie Nagel. And she's explaining to Alan Jackson that the reason she needed that was because no. What happened inside isn't totally separate from what happened outside. That to me felt like, oh, that's interesting, right?
More or less telling on herself because this ties into what the audience is actually talking about between themselves right now. If you presume that what Alan Jackson found and took photographs of in the garage rules out him being in the basement, then you're not putting the whole story together because the story goes something like he was in the basement when he was hit and started bleeding out. And then he was moved to the garage so they could put him in the car to drive him out to the front of the property and put him out the front of the property so they didn't leave footprints in the snow.
Right.
So it all kind of all ties together in this whole trail of getting him onto the front lawn. But
Wait, say that
that's
again. Say that exactly the same thing again. And thank you, Twigs, the Gemini, for reminding us about that statement because it's so haunting when you hear it for the first time. But Aussie, explain
right.
that again.
So he
Explain what you
comes in
just
the
said again.
front and it's right near where the entrance to the basement is.
Yep.
Comes in the front
Oh, the
door. He's
very
got one
front door, like the front. Okay.
very front door, not the side door or anything else. He comes to
Yep.
the very front door. And that's right next to, like, within a meter of that is the basement door.
Yeah.
So he could easily have been pushed into the basement door and down the stairs, beat up in the basement, smashed his head on the gym equipment. They go, holy shit, what have we done? And then they've got to get him outside to the front of the property without leaving footprints in the snow and proving that that's what they did.
Mhm.
So they get him inside the house to the garage. They got to get everyone out of the house first so no one sees him.
Mhm.
Then they get him into the garage, put him into the Ford. What was it again? I
Edge.
forget.
Ford Edge.
The Ford. Get him
Yeah.
into the Ford Edge. Then drive him out the driveway so there's no footprints, there's no sign anyone's come in and out. They get him out to the front, which is where Lucky sees the Ford Edge out the front when they're putting him on the lawn.
Yeah.
So I put this together with a lot of different stories. There was a dude, he said, look, wouldn't you use the Ford Edge to put the body in and then you wouldn't have footprints on the driveway? I was like, freaking brilliant. That would explain it. I'm not saying it did happen. I'm just saying that we don't all need to argue with each other about whether it was the basement or the garage or the whatever,
No.
because it all fits in that sequence.
Right.
That sequence of getting him from the garage to the front lawn includes the Ford Edge, which would include the garage.
And helps us to understand the Jeep, right? Because that whole nonsense, which I've been looking at again, right? Which is why is Brian Higgins lying about where the Jeep is? Why does it matter when he did the sweep of the driveway? Like, why is any of that important? But perhaps it's very important because there was evidence in the driveway that needed to be swept. And in case somebody happened to see it or catch the driveway being swept with the plow, they make the statement that Higgins plows the driveway.
To Twiggy's point, if she fights, it'll be an episode. How's the episode going, guys? How's that episode going for you?
Oh my God. It's unbelievable. It really is. This story is crazy. And then that's right. So I was going to mention that. Thank you for reminding me about the dog. The other thing is the dog, right? I mean, the dog. So obviously, Caitlin takes that dog off the
That
premises.
teases him. Where are they keeping the dog when all these strangers are coming to the house? They're
No,
keeping it in the basement, obviously.
Right. So, and that's the thing. And you think this certainly makes sense because it's the only way that John O'Keefe gets into that house without everybody seeing him is if he goes through that front door. And that's the only way that, because if he goes through the family room, then there's no way that like Sarah, they all see him.
Yeah. If he goes through the garage door, he's still got to pass through the family room into the rest of the house. So he couldn't have gone through that door.
He did
The
not
only
go
door
through
he
the
could
garage.
have gone through is the front door.
The only door he could have gone through, and we know Higgins was waiting for him, right? So real easily Higgins grabs him, says, "Hey, I got to talk to you," and takes him into the basement.
Right. And then, the dog's natural instinct. I grew up with dogs, especially German Shepherds. We bred them for a long time for the police force.
Jesus.
So I know that when someone's going at you and they're yelling at you, the dog's going to jump in. That's what they do. It's just natural. Even a dog that's not normally aggressive, if you are going at their owner, they're going to come at you.
Yeah.
So if the dog's already in the basement and this argument gets loud there, whoever it is the dog thinks it's protecting, which is obviously Brian Albert.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, we all heard, what's his name? Why do I always forget the guy's name? The one that the defense had added to the witness list that Melanie had on to talk about the behavior of the German Shepherds. Oh my God.
name again?
I have
Garrett Wing.
Yes, Garrett Wing. Thank you. Such an incredibly informative conversation. But I had, like all of us, I did my due diligence. This isn't my first rodeo, as is it's not yours either, and spent a lot of time looking at that wound and comparing it with dog bite injuries and dog, claw injuries. And I mean, it's an undeniable match. It's an undeniable match. It's so exact that it would be like it's
It was
almost
so exact that
impossible
multiple
to be
doctors were able to tell you that's a dog bite.
right. Anyone who looks at it that's familiar with dog bites was able to say this is from a dog, right? We can't say if it's the canines or if it's the claws, but this is the kind of wound pattern that you see, of course, with dogs. Right. Yeah. It's crazy though, right? Because, and I love that Alessi asked Ian Whiffen directly, you do understand the significance of the Google search, right? And he gets an answer out, even though the judge, of course, like does a solid, like she always does for the Commonwealth in this case, tries to shut it down, but he does get his answer out and he says, of course.
I absolutely loved what the defense did in the second trial because they kind of misled, like through pre-trial motions, they made it seem like they're going for the third-party defense motion again, and the judge accepted it. Yes, you can have that. And so the Commonwealth went down this alley. They get Hyde and Whiffen in to start crapping on about Jen McCabe's phone, and the defense paid very little attention to Jen McCabe's phone. They put more attention on the stuff that they're doing in the background in their group conversations, etc. But they didn't really spend a lot of time with Whiffen and Hyde on Jen's data. They spent more time with Whiffen and Hyde on John's data, because John's data was more important because they weren't actually planning on doing the third-party defense, and they just gave that classic misdirection from putting that motion to the judge saying, well, we're going to do the third-party defense, and then it was just so very cleverly done how they did that.
Yeah.
Hank fell for it, not hook, line, and sinker, because he did put a lot more focus on trying to prove Karen did this, but he did at least put half his focus on trying to defend the McAlberts too. So he did actually buy it, and he did get those experts to do all his roo-roo. So it was actually pretty good, clever how they did that, and I enjoyed watching them do that whole side. A lot of people are still saying, but we didn't get our answers. Because Karen Reed got acquitted, so
we are though. But we are getting the answers, right? We're getting them slowly but surely, and I'd much rather have her be exonerated and have it take longer to get all the answers than have her be in jail with the answers, So, and you're absolutely right. They put all their evidence this time. They put all their effort into how are we going to, make it clear Karen Reed didn't do this, as opposed to let's talk about who did it instead, right? And which is, I think, what they determined. Yeah,
it was just perfect. Like, I know it was a pain in the ass and it cost a lot of money having the two trials, but this is what the two trials delivered them: the ability to have this one approach where they had to defend Jen McCabe and the Alberts, and then the second trial where they didn't have to do that. They could bounce off of that first trial knowing what they were going to do and say. They had this second opportunity. So even though it cost a lot of money and it was completely unnecessary, it did give them that advantage. And so there were a number of advantages that Andrea and I talked about. The fact that the prosecution had to go first. So they had no idea that that was a misdirection, that they were going to go the third party route. They had no idea until the defense starts putting on their case that this is the route that they're going to go.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of advantages through trial one having happened and not getting acquitted, to trial two and knowing what was going to go down and how to play it this time. So
right. And just having more people, right? Having brought on Alessi and having all the interns, from the Boston, universities, Harvard and just having more eyes, more expertise. Then Dr. La Posada was just an incredible addition. I mean, to me, she was like the all-star of the all-star team. And hard to beat Arca, but she was so good. She was the only one that Hank really didn't take any shots at. Not really. She just kind of made you look small if you tried.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm looking forward to the civil case because a lot of our questions will get answered in the civil case,
yeah.
depending on what road they decide to take. We now know that they're going to bring in all of these people as other defendants in the case or I can't remember, other whatever in the case. An
Yeah.
affirmative defense is called. So
Yeah.
we know they're all going to get deposed. And then we know that there's different rules of evidence as to what the
Mhm.
as to what Karen's team can bring in as evidence. So
Mhm.
it's all going to be very interesting. But I'm just going to caution people not to get too excited that we're going to find out everything in this civil trial. I don't think we are. I think that there's going to be just as much gaslighting and trying
Oh,
to
yeah.
divert attention, and all that's still going to happen, even though it might feel more gratifying to us seeing them put on the stand and ask harder questions that we wanted to see them squirm
Yeah.
with. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know that we're going to get to that satisfaction that we're all looking for out of this case, out of the civil
Sure.
case.
Sure. I think to me, there's different types of satisfaction, right? I mean, I think as you were saying, no one's satisfied until justice is served. And that is going to be, I think, as you well know, a very long road. It's just going to take a long time. And who knows what the twists and turns will be to that end. But then there's like the implicit knowing, and I feel like that's like a different animal. But with people like you out there with this knowledge and this level of expertise and the ability to sort of say, hey, wait a minute, there's more here. It's ultimately what could lead to a different just outcome for in this
I
case. I
think
mean,
the only way we see a different outcome is Morrissey gets ousted
yeah.
and we get someone with the motivation to actually investigate. Someone who's motivated to bring charges against whoever they find is culpable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we don't have that motivation from the current DA, and that's the person that the buck stops with. If there's going to be any charges for anybody else, it's the buck stops at the DA. The
Right.
feds, if they had anything before, they would have done it by now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they're working on something. We don't know. They're only just bringing to light some of the Sandra Birchmore stuff, which happened
Now.
the year prior. It's
Right.
only coming out now, so we don't know that they have dropped the ball. We're assuming because we are humans and we're all thinking on the negative side of things, but that maybe they haven't dropped the ball. Maybe they are still investigating. They're still trying to find that definitive evidence that gives them something that they can bring it home with, because
Of
feds have got
course.
a different level of jurisdiction where they can and can't act. So as far
Absolutely.
as state level charges, you've only got Morrissey, and he's got zero motivation to
No.
indict anyone. He knows.
Right. No. Right. None at all. No. I mean, he's not going to be there for much longer, but we don't know who's coming in either, right? I mean, we have a long way to go, but right. I mean, to your point, this case was never given the full, complete, thorough investigation by anyone. I mean, unless the feds did do that, which is very possible, and we don't know about it, obviously. But certainly the state police really didn't do. If anything, they did a lot, it seems, to try to obfuscate evidence and, switch, hide taillights in video and, invert videos. And they sort of were doing more, it appears, to obfuscate reality than they were to shine a light on it. So it never even investigating any other possibility besides an aggressive assault on Karen Reed. So, you know,
To answer your question, O'Hari, the
Yes.
motive was not that they set out to kill him. There was no motive. This is just like, I was married to someone who just got drunk and beat people because he got drunk. That was
Right. Oh,
just
no,
part of
100%. Agreed.
You knew by beer 7 someone was gonna start getting feet in their head because that's what he does. Like, you knew
100%.
that.
Yeah.
That was just part of his drinking pattern. So,
Yeah.
you know, being married to him and knowing that that was his drinking pattern, I would often pull out a joint and give him the whole, you know, the if you drink beer and grass, you're on your ass kind of theory. Like, we think
Right.
so by beer 7, he's playing his guitar and it's all out of tune, and I'm like, all right, it's time to give him a joint because the next beer he's gonna start kicking heads in. So I would pull out a joint and he'd pass out and throw up, and it would be all over very quickly.
Right.
So
Right. No, you're
but
100% right. Alcohol is a big part of the story for sure.
right, you don't need a reason for a fight to break out when you're drinking. You know, men tend to have this whole better specimen kind of alcohol brings it out in them too. This oh, he's a better specimen than me and he's getting more attention than me, so I've just got a one or whatever.
Yes, a lot of
So
egos in the room for sure. Yeah,
right, it's
100%.
very much a masculinity thing. I think it happens with women who drink as well. If they're
Sure.
put beside a better specimen, they get aggressive as well. But
It can,
just
sure.
having been married to a man who does it, I always could see this person is going to trigger him by beer 7 at 7 o'clock, beer o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
why I think Higgins and Albert, you know, don't give you the amount of time they were actually drinking for. And again, it wasn't properly investigated to our knowledge anyway. So my sense is that they had been drinking a lot longer than they want to admit that they have. And that's part of why they're so shady. And there's a lot of ambiguity around the time that they did this. They got back from the New York trip and then they got to the hillside. There's all this ambiguity there about where they were. They dropped off, you
all
know.
day. We know they were drinking
Oh,
all
they were
day, you know.
wasted. Right.
They were wasted. All of them were
Wasted.
wasted. I don't know about the kids being wasted, but you know, obviously they're at home having a party. They're not gonna not get wasted.
No, they were wasted. They were so wasted.
Having a party and their parents aren't home. Like,
Right,
hello.
right, right. Well, and it was Canton. I mean, Canton, Massachusetts. This is one of the interesting things when you do some history, you know, on the town, how it was settled. I mean, it's boring stuff probably to most people, but it is interesting. It is an Irish Catholic drinking community. I mean, that's why, you know, it's standard practice for all the parents while the kids, you know, finish basketball, the parents all go out drinking and the kids go home, right? It's like literally that is a part of the culture of that community. So, you know, Karen had mentioned that this was a time in life where she felt like she made poor choices and one of them was drinking too much. And I think to me, this case really does at its core come down to, you know, if alcohol didn't exist, John O'Keefe is alive and well. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And you're right. You don't necessarily need anything more than that. I mean, it could really just purely be as simple as they were drunk. I mean, it really could
They were
be.
drunk.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
yeah,
were
yeah.
drunk and Higgy's pride was hurt. That's all you need is
Right. And he
I
hit
was
his head.
drunk, my pride was hurt, and we know John's a better specimen. There you go. That's all the ingredients that you need for a fight to break out.
Right.
And we
And
saw
these
that
guys were
in the past.
so plugged in. They had so many. I mean, this is the other thing, and I'm starting to do my next area investigation, which I'm not even close to through with this one yet, but my next area of investigation is looking more at Brian Albert and his longstanding ties to that community and into the Boston community and the kind of reputation he had in terms of like he was on the elite team that like essentially the special forces equivalent in Boston at the Boston PD, responsible for like the big high profile cases in the city. So, you know, he was very, very connected. Brian Albert is, I'm sure, still.
Did you see Microdot's video on
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
how
Yes.
connected they were and how they covered up the previous 4 car accidents, 2 hit and
Yes.
runs, 2 hit and I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I know it was 3 hit and runs, and then Tristan's accident.
Tristan,
All
I mean, oh my
all of them got
God.
split up,
Well,
so
yeah, I mean, all of them, right? I mean, Chris actually does kill something. It's really, and then there's so many. I mean, this is the thing that people don't understand about this case. Oh, it's conspiracy. Oh, she was drunk. She probably hit him. I mean, the reality is it's hard to have, and I've invited several times. I mean, and I say this publicly, please, anyone who has an opinion that Karen is guilty and wants to argue it, I welcome them to come and do it with me because I like that. I like being able to see all sides. The challenge is that you really have to know the case, and it's tough to do, if you haven't done the big deep dive into every kind of nook and cranny in this case. It's hard to have a conversation with somebody else who hasn't done that and just says, oh, she's drunk, she probably did it, and oh, it couldn't be a cover up, right?
Right.
'Cause this case is like all about the details, very, very
I think
seriously.
that's my only issue with debating people on it is because I've gotten so far into the weeds, especially with the data and stuff, and, the car tech data and now the SQL data and the phone data and I've been to the weeds and back with the data, and I just don't feel like somebody who says that she did do it can argue it as intellectually, if that makes sense.
Someone
I'm not
says that she
saying that
did.
not
Well, that
yeah,
unless
not I'm
they
not
can.
saying that they're gonna be dumber than me, but just that I've put that much work into the
Oh, I see what you're
technicality
saying.
of the data, that they would have to match me on the data level to be able to have that argument and come out without bruises. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, I do. I mean, that's kind of my point. That's my point. It's like you don't want to have an unfair conversation, right? I mean, that is precisely my point as well.
And
You gotta.
they can't argue with a mature, um, back and forth conversation like we're doing.
I
I
know.
had a back and forth with, Bob Motter about the Richard Allen trial because I come from the family's perspective on that trial,
Okay.
whereas
I don't know
everybody else
anything about
comes.
it.
Yeah, so people expected it to be a showdown, which is what I called the video, but it wasn't a showdown because we're all mature adults and we can all accept that each other have different perspectives, and so
Right.
ends up being a mature conversation between adults. This is what I was thinking, and this is what I was thinking, and we come away from it still thinking the things that we were originally thinking without having a fight. So,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
you see a lot of these arguments going on, like right now between the creators. They're just shouting over the top of each other,
Right.
and it's not a meaningful conversation where you can actually achieve something. So,
No, well, that's it's like, yes, name calling, you're stupid, this kind of stuff. It's right. It has, if I'm going to have it, I would love for it to be an intellectual conversation. Otherwise, it's just not going to be a conversation. It's just, you're
shout
dumb and this kind of thing. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's not really a conversation. Listen, I like sometimes being challenged because it forces me to like, okay, yeah, what is my opinion and why do I believe it? It makes me go back through piece by piece.
That's how you learn to stand by your convictions. You've got to
Of
see
course.
both sides of the argument to be able
Right.
to be sure that this side is the right side. So,
Right, right, yeah. Well,
yeah.
thank you so, so much. You might be hearing from me very soon because as soon as we walk away from this conversation, like tomorrow, I'm going to wake up and be like, oh my God, what about this? What about this? And so I'm going to have probably more questions. So don't be surprised when you hear from me again very, very soon. But I
I'll
so
be
appreciate you taking
anytime
time to come on with us.
answer any questions that I can. I'm not going to have all of the answers,
No.
because I'm not one of those tech heads who thinks they know everything. There's a lot of shit I don't know, and I'm happy
Right.
to draw the line and say this is my limitation. But hey, I've still got an opinion. But whatever.
Well,
But yeah,
you have I guess a language knowledge capacity that just is very unique and so helpful. And I appreciate you being willing to take the time. I mean, I couldn't thank you enough for taking your time to do just that chart. My God, how much time did that take?
Yeah, it took a little while. It was a little bit of
Yeah.
digging. But I mean, what you guys would call a lot of time, probably, you move that into the world of Asperger's, and we're talking about an inhumane amount of attention towards something for 40 to 50 hours without taking a break. So for you guys, it would have been weeks. For me, it was a couple of days of, for putting in 40 to 50-hour days and not having sleep. And it's just how it works with
Right.
Asperger's. So
That's
you're
right.
in
And
the
I
zone.
appreciate it though. I appreciate you so much being willing to do it, because it is information that it's a hole, and it's starting to shine a light in a dark hole that we just didn't have a light there before. And so I am
Sure.
forever
If you
grateful.
want to get into the tech data, please invite me back so we can talk about the tech data, because that's a whole other thing by itself.
Oh,
There was things
yes.
that between trial 1 and trial 2 that were completely the opposite to each other. There was numbers and things thrown out there that didn't match what the data actually was telling us. Crazy shit with the tech data. So please do put one of those aside, because that'll be another fun one to jump
Okay,
into.
yeah. Oh, you just got yourself a date. So now I'm already like, when can I do that? When can I do that? So you'll be
It's
hearing from
done.
me very, very soon on that, I promise. Thank
Easy.
you.
All right.
Thank you so,
Thanks
so
again for
much.
having me. Thank you for the
Yeah.
chat, for being
Thank
so
you.
amicable. That doesn't often happen at the moment. So thank you
Right.
to the chat.
They're the
Thank you,
best.
everyone.
Thank you, Aussie. Have a beautiful rest of your day over there in Sydney. Good night. Good
You
day. Bye-bye. Aussie Insider. Oh boy. Freaking fascinating, right? Like so interesting. What do you guys think? It's tough, right? Because I am exactly this way. I will admit it. I've gone back and tried to listen to Ian Whiffen. I don't know how many times I've tried to listen, and like I'm listening and I'm trying and I'm trying and I'm listening, and then all of a sudden my brain just shuts off. Like I'm just like, I don't care. I'm like falling asleep. I have to rewind it and listen again, right? So really helpful to just have somebody who is literate, fluent, and took, something that the Commonwealth gave us and just made it into this beautiful document and made it so clear and easy to understand. So if you haven't seen these videos, there's a tremendous amount of data in both, but it's very, very interesting. I mean, it really, really is. And it makes sense. And I will tell you, just so everybody understands, I'm sure most of you know this, but the way that I came to this was solely because I saw in my feed one morning that Ian Whiffen had done this interview with this Heather person from Cellbrite. And I thought, he's like really still out there sort of, throwing this down. I wonder what else is going on. So I went back to his testimony just to kind of do some, investigating. I had not actually seen it since the trial and had no plan to. But I didn't get that far before I ended up going back to Nick Garino. And then I saw, his shock the second that Yannetti brings up Jennifer McCabe's name. He almost falls over. And as soon as I saw his reaction, I thought, oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Awesome. Ohari won. That's amazing. Email me and we'll set it up. That's awesome. I'm thrilled about it. Like I've said before, I'm happy to do it. I want to do it. So, we'll figure it out. I'll make a special extra night live or something to do it, because I am very serious. I very much do want to have that conversation, because like I said, it challenges me to think clearly, provided again, it doesn't end up being name calling and all this other, silliness. So I would love it. I love it. I really, really do. And, because again, it's a huge case. Oh my God. And there's so much, so much. So it's hard to, it's an endless amount of information to be sorting through. But when I saw Garino, that was when I said, what the fuck? Why is Nicholas Garino reacting like this? Just like all he did was ask the most basic, benign, silly question about, he just, mentioned the name. Jennifer McCabe's cell phone, and Garino went, like he literally looked like he had seen a ghost. And I thought, okay, that's weird. But it wouldn't, again, none of this was intentional. There was no reason whatsoever for me to be looking at Nicholas Garino, except that I happened upon Ian Whiffen's, little chat with this woman from Cellbrite. And that's what led me down this like rabbit hole, looking at the police and these extraction reports and who did the extractions. And then it turns out that the Massachusetts State Police did not do those extractions and that they were handed over. I mean, all this crazy. So really, really interesting stuff. Really, really interesting stuff. So yeah, I mean, encourage you, if you haven't seen the two videos on Jen McCabe's extraction report that Aussie Insider put out, I will make sure that they're in the description later tonight for this video so that you can see them. Are they there now? They might even be there now. No, I don't know if they're there now. They're somewhere, that maybe they're in a different video that I just recently put out, but I will make sure that they're there so that everybody can easily find them and link and check them out, because it's fascinating. It's just fascinating. But it did take me in this whole other direction, and I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to follow the trail, right? And it's a process. You have to you guys know about rabbit holes, right? Like you start in one place and you think you're going in one direction, but then all of a sudden you find yourself, oh, I was at Ian Whiffen. Now I'm at Nick Garino. Somehow I'm at Sergeant Good. Now I'm over here at Kerry Roberts. Now I'm back here at Jen McCabe. And then she says something. So now I'm over here at Mike Lank. And now I'm looking back at Kerry. And it's been days of this, just trying to kind of keep a landscape of what the hell is going on. And then to have Aussie Insider drop this at the exact same time, it was wild. It was wild. I was like, wow, this is wild. And it turned out that it was really for the same reason, right? That she too had sort of, at least in part, been inspired by this Cellbrite interview. And it's really more about getting to the truth, right? I mean, that is really the objective, to figure out what really happened here. And there's, the thing that I think I have been maybe the most focused on is the lying, right from the start. That was what got me. It's what got me interested in this case originally, right? Was the information that we hear that Brian Albert didn't come out of his house. That absolutely baffled me in my mind, in my understanding of human beings and who this guy is. I thought to myself, there is no way in the world that this man didn't come onto the lawn. Like, it just didn't happen. So why lie about that? That was the very first question that I had. And that's what opened the door for me to be interested in this case. So, we'll see. We will see where it all goes. Let's see, what time are we at? So we do have a little time. Sometimes my chat, you guys, get stuck. So I'm trying to just reboot this real quick here. And there we go. Okay. Lion Mom sends $9.99 and says, I'm hoping the feds are still on it. The email Commissioner Cox received was from an officer within public corruption. Can you imagine the year's investigation of Canton PD, MSPD, and the DA's office? Yeah, I mean, and now I have to say, I don't think Michael Proctor is helping these people at all. I think he's really like burying everybody. It's wild to see. I mean, who knows what the hell is actually on that phone? Let me see if I can take this off. I'll put my email back up in a bit. I just want to hide this so that I can move your guys' comments down. There we go. We'll see, but I don't think that, if you really think about going back to the second Karen Read trial, you listen to those jurors, the cops, I mean, it was really like Proctor and Buchanan. They were the ones that sort of started to really tip the scales, in the not guilty direction when you listen carefully to what the jurors say. So would it surprise any of us if Michael Proctor does more damage with whatever's on, his phone? It's just crazy to me. And, and I don't want to say I feel bad for Michael Proctor. I don't. But he did this to himself. But I do feel like he is a patsy. I mean, they are using him without a doubt as the fall guy, right? I mean, it's, to me, it says, you know what? Maybe someday he will get sick and tired of being held out as the fall guy, right? Maybe someday Proctor will want to have his story told and will come out and tell the truth. I very, very, very seriously doubt it, but we can dream. We can dream about it. Valentine Bilby sends $5 and says, I heard somewhere the fake doctor engineer used the data from the exemplar car. Oh, God. Really? I had not heard that. Did anybody else hear that? That's interesting. That Welcher used the car from the exemplar data? I've never heard that. The only thing I would say about that is well, I mean, I guess we'd have to, this is what we would have to ask somebody who's knows very, very well the first trial set of data and the second trial set of data. And because, again, I'm just not that interested in it, it hasn't been something that I've spent a tremendous amount of time comparing. But obviously, I mean, look, during the first trial, Adam Lally's version of what happened morphed. Like it started, God, I can't remember now, it was so long ago, but like the original thing was 12:45. The original accident, according to Adam Lally, was at 12:45. Karen backed up 60 feet going like 24 miles per hour. Is that right? Is that right? That was the original story, but then in the middle of that trial, that had to change because it turned out that Garino presented that Karen, her Wi-Fi connected to John's house at 12:36. So there's that shot that whole thing right out of the window, right? I just like immediately that was dead. So then they kind of recalibrated and came up with a different time. I mean, it's just been on the Commonwealth side, never entirely clear to me until trial number 2, when Welcher and Whiffen sort of, right, they kind of, God, I can't remember the exact dates, but I know that Whiffen testifies, and then there's like a 2-week lag time before, or maybe not quite 2 weeks, but like 2 trial weeks, like 6 days, 7 days, trial days before Burgess and Welcher are going to testify. There's some time in between, and they have that opportunity to change their reports. Remember, that's what that whole thing was, that Burgess changes his data, the whole thing. I mean, this is such a huge conversation, right? Because each string you pull is like a whole nother door that is just hours of time and effort and energy and data and the whole thing. So, but I'm sure somebody can tell us. Let's see what other people in the chat are saying about this. I am trying to, I'll see if I can continue to look. I don't know that. I've never heard that, but I will tell you that there's a lot of other areas of evidence that are not my area of expertise. I'm not a data analyst, certainly not a software developer or engineer, and not a video editing expert or anything like that. But there are other areas of that type of expertise where there are a lot of roads you could go down here, right? Injuries, the physical injuries on John, that's a whole nother avenue. Right. And it's interesting because Yeah, so that's a great point. And I actually am so glad, Mitz Lucius, you said this, because I was wondering, is anybody here like an emergency room doctor or nurse or someone who works in and around emergencies all the time, from the kind of head wound that John had to the back of his skull, how much blood do you think he should have had? Now, the fact that there was none, that there was 3 droplets, I think 3, maybe 4, I think 3, no, 6. Was it 6 droplets? I know they're droplets, right? And I know there's 6 solo cups, but I don't know how big. Like, I don't remember seeing photos of how big. I just know that there was no giant puddle of blood underneath John O'Keefe. The other thing that this is the only time this has ever come up. So again, these are questions. If you guys have it, please let me know. John, my understanding from Kerry and Karen was that John was found on his back. Remember, because Karen talks about taking a piece of glass out of his nose, and Kerry, they're wiping snow out of his face. But Jen McCabe on her 911 call talks about turning him over. We just flipped him over, she says. So I just want to know, does anybody in the chat believe that he was turned over, that he was found on his face and turned over? So those are 2 questions, right? Was he face down or was he face up when he was found? Yes, right. That's right. So exactly, tech savvy IDBH, exactly. What about we just turned him over? What was that? Right. So that was a big red flag for me. I actually did take the time to go back and listen to Kerry and Karen again, and I did not hear them mention that. So that's something, again, right. So people are saying face up. Sherry D sends $5, says, let's hope for part 2 with Aussie Insider. Please and thank you, Sam. Sherry, thank you as well. And there will definitely be a part 2, of course. There's no question. It's just a matter of like, when can we do it? There's not enough time in the day for all this. I'm telling you. And there's so many other cases that I have an interest in. You guys have no idea. There's so much other stuff that I would love to just go diving into, but there's this weight of stuff over here that it's like, when you're just like, I can't let go until I get X done first. That's where I'm at right now with this case. Like, I got to just ride this out for a little while because I'm so in the weeds on it. But yeah, I mean, of course, there is so much more. So I also just wanted to say, I saw that there were some people, Amy Law, I think this is 4-month shout out. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Yeah, did I see that? Yeah, I saw Amy Law in 1972, month 4. Holy crap. Amy Law, I cannot even believe it's been 4 months. It feels like 4 months, but it also feels like 4 years, but it also feels like 4 minutes. It's wild. It's just like, I have no sense of time at all. So that is awesome. I can't believe it. You're like super OG. I also see that Songbits Laura, of course, 4-2. You guys are amazing. I cannot thank you enough for your support. You're the best. You really are like the greatest chat. Obviously I'm biased, but such an awesome group of people. Everybody's just awesome and respectful and engaging and engaged. And so next week, you guys, just so you know, before I forget to say it, I'm on vacation for the first time. I don't think I have actually gone away during like a work week, seriously, since like way before my daughter was born, and she's 12. So I'm actually taking the week off, which is completely unheard of in my universe. So I will not be here live with you next week, but I will be, of course, the week after that when we get back. And, who knows? You never know. Like, it was kind of like with Melanie last week, we're talking about back and forth. What are we going to talk about? What do you think? And of course, by the time the day came, it was like, forget it. That all just went out the window because we had such a huge news day by the time she and I did end up connecting and being live together. So I can't say with any great certainty where we'll be in 2 weeks from now, but I know for sure I won't be here next week. That's all I know at this moment. And, hopefully I will get at least halfway through. I want to get to chapter 5 of the 10 chapters in this John O'Keefe series before then, right? But it's a lot. So, I have to just sit down and finish. You guys saw my chapter 3 preview, which of course is on the Google searches on this very topic. And there's so much there. I'm trying to figure out with this chapter, how to best show you spotlight this very specific line of thinking. But it's hard because as soon as I kind of go there, it's very easy to kind of, veer off somewhere else. Like, for example, where's Chloe, right? Like, it's so easy. We're sitting, we're talking, I'm doing this, I'm editing this video, all is well. And then somehow I find myself going down the road of like, well, where's the dog? And what about this? And so it's hard to keep it all straight. I will just say that. All right. So before we leave, I wanted to go back and I wanted to show you. So some of this you've already seen. This was a video that I put together. I'm not exactly sure that I knew what I was going to do with it. It's like I'm merging a bunch of different topics, kind of like conflating things. I might make us a lot more confused right now, but I want to show you, I think it'll just be interesting. And then we'll see where we're at time-wise. So I'm going to add this to the stage. Let's see how we do. All right. Nope, I'm still here. This is Fairview, on Fairview. Okay, so for those of you that have never been to Canton, Massachusetts, we have just turned, my sister and I were there. This was, I think, our first visit to Canton. It's my first visit, not her first visit, but my first visit. And she and I are actually going, so the way that we're driving here is the way that Karen and Kerry and Jen would have been driving towards the house when they found John. So Fairview, 34 Fairview is going to be on the left, the way that we have just turned on to Fairview here. And it's I don't know if it's a full mile, but it's a ways down the road. The house is on the other side where like the main road then intersects with Fairview. So you'll see this is like our little drive. It's coming up. Yeah. This is 30. This is it right here.
Oh, is that cars in the driveway? All right. There's people live here.
I cut out the drive.
Is 34 Fairview. Look at how small it is, dude.
Wow. Yeah. So if you haven't been to 34 Fairview, the thing that is overwhelming, and I haven't figured out why it is that photos don't communicate this as well as standing in front of this house. But it is such a small yard, you guys. Like, I'm convinced, I am 5'4". I'm convinced that if my sister and I were, head to toe, laying vertically from the street to that front door, we would be my feet and her head, we would be touching the stairs at that front door. It is a tiny yard. It is so small. So it's something we all know. I've said it a million times. I'm sure you've heard it from other people if you've never been to Canton, and I'm sure some of you never will ever be in Canton. But it cannot be overstated. It cannot be overstated how small of a front lawn this is. So let's go back here.
Look at how small it is, dude.
Wow. There had been relative chaos on the lawn for a number of minutes, from about 6:10 until at least 6:40. When we went in, there were still emergency vehicles with lights on and engines running. Chaos, relative chaos, bedlam, as somebody has said, on that front lawn, correct?
It was more on their side lawn and down the street, kind of like all the cruises. A lot of them were behind their yacht.
Was Mr. O'Keefe more to the center of the property, the right of the property, or the left?
He was on the left of the property, yes.
Now, in addition to Mr. O'Keefe in this sort of area on the left side of the property, what, if any, sort of other landmarks or other things did you observe on that side of the property?
To the left of the property, there was a fire hydrant, a bush, and a flagpole, I believe. To the left, to the farther left, like more near the property line.
Right. So I wasn't sure if this came through here, and that's part of why I didn't include this in the actual preview video or in the actual final edit to this point, because it's not 100% clear that Officer Seraph is saying here, no, actually, the flagpole and the fire hydrant were farther left than where John was. And if you look at where the flagpole is, and then where the Brian Albert bedroom window is, it's hard to imagine how anyone would think that there's value in saying it's over on the left side of the, like, what is the value? And I really want to understand, because how, like, this is the thing, like, people that don't commit crimes and that don't like have anything to hide and like are not worried about going to jail because they didn't commit a murder or know anybody else who has, they don't care about saying matter-of-factly, this is where it was. So what? My brother-in-law didn't wake up. What can I tell you? He didn't. He's a fucking deep sleeper. I don't know, but he didn't wake up. What you're not going to do is go, no, it was further left, which doesn't actually help you, because the left side of the lawn puts you right underneath Brian Albert's bedroom window. Like, it doesn't make sense. But you know what? You know, it does make sense. Well, I'm sure I say it. Let's see what I say here.
I would say farther left, like more near the property line, I would say.
Until you see this yourself, you really can't comprehend how small this front yard is. There's absolutely no way he could have been hit by a car near this flagpole and not have been seen by everybody coming out the front. I mean, I don't even think it's 30 feet. It is such a short amount of space. And then that window up there, Brian and Nicole's window.
Can you hear me?
The other thing I want to just say about this is, like, there are people living in this house. So this isn't an empty house. It's not like, you know, they were allowed into the house while they were switching owners or something, like, right? You know, because if it's a completely empty house, of course, you know, there's not anything kind of to help, you know, muffle the sound, right? It's just going to be an empty house. Of course, you're going to hear every sound outside. But this is actually like a house very well lived in at this moment that they're doing this little experiment also. I mean, it's a silly experiment, because I think we all common sense wise, all of us understood this already, especially if you've seen this house. I mean, I'm so glad that the jurors were able to take a trip to the house. I mean, it's a must. You have to see it. You really have to see it to believe it.
Right. To the side, in the side yard of 34 Fairview, yes.
Right. And just so everybody understands, the police in their reports, in their initial reports, did not put 34 Fairview. They put 32 Fairview. They also didn't spell, I'm not sure if it was the Albert's name that they didn't spell. I have to go back and look at Sergeant Good's testimony. Sergeant Good and Sergeant Lank, or who is now, I guess, Lieutenant Lank, I think, their testimony is where you're going to get all the goods on the reports, how they were written, exactly what was changed, the photos that were changed, all of that. You'll get a lot of that from trial number 1. But it is true. It is factually true that originally in those initial reports, 32 Fairview was listed. The Alberts names were wiped off the face of the earth. Names were spelled wrong intentionally to try to, I guess, misdirect who was involved. I mean, it's just not good.
On the alarm of 34 Fairview.
Yes.
Where first responders were responding, correct?
Yes.
And you say at night was screaming to the top of her lungs, is that right?
Yes, she was.
And Kerry Roberts was screaming back at her?
Yes.
Shut up or shut the fuck up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it's funny. That is funny. I think that's funny. Don't you think that's funny? I think that's funny. That's funny. Haha.
I could probably talk to them through the window right here, and they would still hear me.
Look, Kerry, you got to get off him, honey. Kerry, you got to get off of him. This is a scene. Look, Kerry, you got to get off him, honey. Kerry, you got to get off of him. This is a scene.
To the side, in the side yard of 34 Fairview, yes.
And on the alarm of 34 Fairview.
Yes.
Where first responders were responding, correct?
Yes.
And you say at night was screaming to the top of her lungs, is that right?
Yes, she was.
And Kerry Roberts was screaming back at her?
Yes.
Shut up or shut the fuck up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't even mean to list this twice. Like I said, this
I was
is
trying to piece
raw.
together.
You knew all this when you asked for the screenshot. You
Yes.
knew what her position was in this case, correct?
She had no involvement. What happened
I
outside
didn't ask
is
you if she had
different.
involvement.
Okay. So this could potentially be an important moment. It really could. So Alan Jackson, and I didn't want to include all of the conversation before because it's kind of boring. They're talking about how or why Jen reached out to get this stupid text from Julie Nagel from her brother when he texted, "Hey, I'm outside," or "Hey, I'm here," because she wanted to make her timeline, as you guys know, right? So that's what this is about. And then she makes this really interesting statement that I didn't catch the first time around that is really interesting and may be worth paying closer attention to. Take a listen.
Correct?
She had no involvement. What happened
I
outside
didn't ask
is
you if she had
different.
involvement.
Let her finish her answer.
Right? So she had no involvement. What happened outside is different. And I'll tell you why this is important. For a very long time, one of the like loose ends, loose strings, one of the pieces for me that is like really important to try to get my mind around, try to understand what happened here is Julie Nagel and Sarah Levinson, right? Do these two women, did they know what happened to John? Were they privy to that information at that time, right? And it's tough. I mean, it's clear that, well, first of all, it's very clear that Julie Nagel is very, very close to the Albert family, very, very close to Brian Albert Jr. and has been for a very, very long time, since they were in middle school, I think. So she, but close friend for 10 years, if you knew that their family was involved in a, it wasn't an intentional murder, but was involved in a murder of a police officer, what would you do? Would you testify and lie? Right? So and I'm not sure I completely buy that they were privy to what was going on. And so this has been a big question for me for a long time. And Jennifer may have just given us an answer. Now, I can't say for sure, of course, but it's an interesting statement that she really wants to get across to Alan Jackson. She sincerely wants him to hear this. And she's reiterating it like 2-3 times. So it's important to her, which makes it important for us.
I was trying to piece together.
You knew all this when you asked for the
She was, by the way, she is trying to piece the time. She's being honest about that.
screenshot. You knew what her position was in this case, correct?
She had no involvement. What happened
I
outside?
She had no involvement. Does everybody understand what just happened in this moment? Because I don't know if I did until just now. I think I'm only just understanding what's happening in this moment, right? She had no involvement. Wait. No involvement in what, Jen? What did she have no involvement in? Wait, what? What did she have no involvement in, Jen? I'm telling you, this woman gets tired and just starts mouthing off. And I don't know. What are you trying to say here, Jennifer? What is
You knew
going
what her
on
position
here?
was in this case,
Hear this
correct?
again.
She had no involvement. What happened
I
outside
didn't ask
is
you if she had
different.
involvement.
Let her finish her answer.
She had no involvement in what? She just told on herself. What do you mean she had no involvement? No involvement, Jen, in what? You're having a birthday party for Brian Albert Jr., right? He's 23 for like the 70th time in the last hour, right? So what is it that she had no involvement in? What? I mean, this is a really, really incriminating thing to say. I don't really think I really grasped how incriminating this sentence is until right now. Like, what is it, Jennifer, that she didn't have an involvement in? And then because why I heard it. So this felt important to me because she is telling us that what happened inside was distinctly different and apart from what happened outside, right? Now, she's very clear. Julie Nagel had no involvement. It's leakage, exactly. It sure is. It sure is. It sure is. It sure is. Wow. That was a big. That was leakage. That was leakage. That was Jen. I imagine it must be very tough because she's 4 freaking days. This woman is on the stand. Could you imagine for 4 days? You're holding something in your mind that you're not supposed to say. You're trying to stick with whatever rehearsed stuff you've got in your head. You're trying to hold it. You're trying to hold it. You're trying not to look at it. It's the elephant in the room. Don't say it out loud. Don't say elephant. Don't say elephant. Don't say elephant. Dance around the elephant. Whatever you do, don't say elephant. Like eventually you're going to start talking about elephants, right? This is wild. It's wild. Wild. Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. Oh, what the hell? Twigs, the Gemini, sends $10. Your series of videos has been awesome. He was face up. I know. Jen wanted to account for the idea that he might have facial wounds. I know. I don't know that she saw John after he was dead before that morning. Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I think if we're right, because the important with the 911 call, which we should probably all go through together at some point, outside of the video, because there's so much there. I mean, that video could be 3 hours. It's a 2-minute and 30-second call, and it could be a 3-hour video because there's so much going on there. And the enhanced version, oh my God, whoever did the enhancement on that did such an incredible job. It is now crystal clear what she says throughout the entire thing. And there was some I had to leave out, otherwise the video was going to be hours long. And it's important to know that at this moment, dispatch is asking about blood. That is what the dispatch is asking. Well, is there blood on the ground? Is there a puddle of blood? Could he have hit his head? Right? And so what she's trying to do, and what does she say? Right? She's talking about there's some face injuries, right? Or something about bleeding from the face, like, right? Meanwhile, he's got a gash the size of a small country on the back of his skull. And like I said, if I missed it, I will write it again so I can see it because my thing freezes. If you know, because of you have experience, you're a doctor, you're a nurse, you work in an ER, or you just know about this, how much blood would an injury to the back of the skull cause? How much blood would that cause? I mean, I think it's safe to say more than 5 droplets. I think that's a pretty safe bet. But I mean, if you look at what the defense shows in the garage, it would have been like, liters of blood. I don't know. I don't know. I really do not know. I just know that it seems like absolutely no blood at all underneath his head. That seems impossible to me. It's also interesting that the defense never brought this up, never brought it forward. Now, maybe that's because there's no photos, there's no way to prove it. I don't know. I mean, who knows? Really, really, really interesting. And yeah, Twigs, why does she say that we turn him over? Why, it's like, come on. She's terrible at lying. Decent at recovery and decent at rehearsed statements, right? Decent at rehearsed statements. Like she gets those rehearsed statements down over on how many hours she spent studying for this. I mean, hours, hours. She would have had to have. I mean, there's no way that she would have been able to sit here for the amount of time that she does and not have put in a tremendous amount of time in preparation. But I will tell you that there are some moments where if looks could kill, I mean, she's, we'll see. Let's see if what I included here. There's so many that I have seen in the last 30, 40 hours of footage gathering that I don't remember what I put in this video, but there's so many interesting moments in this testimony.
Go ahead.
It's fascinating.
What happened outside was separate from anything that happened inside.
Okay. All right. So here we have, like, this may be really important. I don't know for how long I've been asking about whether Julie and Sarah Levinson had any idea what was going on. She has just made it very, very clear that the answer is no. That what happened outside was definitively different from what was going on inside, and that she had no involvement. No involvement.
What's going on? Is he face down?
We just flipped him over.
She called John's friend, Kerry Roberts, and Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert's sister-in-law, who was also at his house the night before. The 3 women together now headed to Albert's home.
How soon was it when you pulled in there that you saw John's body?
Immediately. And what struck me when I saw him was his mouth was open a little bit and his eyes were shut and he had spots of blood in different areas on his face.
Is he breathing, you guys? No. It doesn't seem to be breathing.
Okay, do they know how to do CPR? Do they want to attempt CPR?
You guys, Carrie, can you guys do CPR? No, I guess he's gone.
Okay. They don't feel comfortable doing so?
No, I think he's passed away.
Okay. All right, we got the fire department and the police department.
Yeah, at Taco Rocks. I have heard that too. I have heard that Brian Albert sat in the parking lot of the hospital where she worked and scared her. I don't know if it's true, but I did hear it too. Scared Sarah Levinson you're talking about. Yeah. I will tell you that I learned this later. This is true. That the defense originally showed up to talk to her, or the defense investigator. I'm not sure if it was, I think it was their investigator, showed up to the house and were going to speak with her. And I think even had like a scheduled date the following day. And then she called them back and said, I don't want to talk to you. So I think there was definitely a discussion that they were going to have with her, and then she pulls the plug on it. I don't know if he actually was ever seated in her hospital parking lot as if to threaten her, but I did hear that also. I'm sure people other people in the chat will know. Oh, she sure did, dear. Many, many times. She says it many, many times. Many, many times. And that's a good question. Absolutely good question. How would she know? And it's more than just how would she know, because I won't tell you yet. Wait, watch. Just watch. I think
I'm on the way. If everyone's declining CPR, then I'll hang up with you, and if anything changes, you can give us a call back. Where are you guys outside?
Oh, right out front. You'll see the car.
Oh.
I know. I'm on the phone with the ambulance. I know, honey. I know, I know.
He's not
This, so, Kerry, you got to get off him, honey. Kerry, you got to get off of him. Oh, my God, this is a scene.
Did you, at that point, get a chance to touch John's body and see how it felt temperature-wise?
I just remember when I was doing the compressions, I don't really know how to explain it. It just felt very funny.
I'm sorry,
It just wasn't like normal. I don't. I can't think of how to describe the way it felt when I was trying to press down, but it was like resistance.
How long did you try to give compressions and give aid to John for?
Until the police came.
Mr. Brennan, why don't we end here?
Saved by the judge. Yeah, I mean, she did. She very much did. She tries to cover her tracks later on. I don't think I included it here, but let's see. No, it's not here.
God save the Commonwealth.
So there's another clip of her talking at the end of her direct testimony, just before Alan Jackson jumps in to do cross-examination. I think it's possible that Alan Jackson came back after lunch and started with Jen McCabe. Somebody might want to correct me, but the problem with this 911 call, and you can disagree with me, but the problem with this 911 call is that if you love somebody that you were out drinking with last night, okay? So imagine that you love someone, you have a very good friend, you've been friends with them for a long time, you love them. Last night, you guys are all out drinking together, big group of you. You were supposed to come, that person was supposed to come to the house, your sister's house, that's an important detail, which, by the way, she never tells any of the first responders. But anyway, so your sister's house, and his girlfriend, your friend's girlfriend, wakes you up at 5 a.m. and says, he never came home. I'm frantic, help me find him, whatever. And so you end up, however you end up, we'll just go with Jen's I'm innocent story. You're innocent. You have no idea what happened to him. You show up and all of a sudden you see your friend who you were out drinking with the night before on the front lawn of your sister's house, passed out. I've had friends in college who were drunk enough, we were young, high school and college, passed out, and it was cold. I lived in the Berkshires in Massachusetts during high school, and I went to college in Montana, at least in part, and Vermont and Burlington. It's very cold in those places. And so, yeah, drunk, cold, passed out. Human beings will do just about anything to avoid the idea that someone that they love or even know is dead. So here's what you're not going to do. You arrive at the scene at 6:03. The two people that you're with go right to the body and they start, Karen's lifting up her shirt and throwing herself on John's body to try to warm him up. Carrie's wiping his face. And Jen ends up calling 911. I don't know if Kerry says call 911. I don't know if she takes it upon herself to call 911. But we know because of the car is, we know where the car is, right? The car is on the side of the road because it's a car and it's in the street. And we know that Jen is next to the truck. She's next to the hatchback of Carrie's car, which is open. And we know that because we can hear from Karen calling John while they are driving and dropping the phone. We get to hear Jen's entire message also through this we get to hear the 911 call through Karen's message, right? On John's phone, I guess. It's Karen calling John's phone and leaving a 4-minute message by accident. So we know that Jen is right next to the car. So at no point has she gone near this body. She did not do those chest compressions until after the 911 call is over. The whole experience, the call is 2 minutes and 38 seconds. So she has been there, I mean, less than 2 minutes. And within, I think it's like the third sentence before she tells the dispatch that she thinks he's dead. I'm not exaggerating. I am being dead honest about when she says it. Okay. So that means that in 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes, probably, Jennifer McCabe decides that her friend who she's out drinking with, who she knows nothing about, as far as she's concerned, he never came into the house. They know nothing about this. Okay. Nothing at all. She immediately tells dispatch, I think he's dead. But hang on. She doesn't say it once. She doesn't say it twice. She doesn't say it 3 times. She says it at least 4 times in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And she says it to the dispatch officer who says, at the moment, when he says, I was going to bring it right up. I don't know if I have it right here to bring for you. Right at the moment where he says, okay, well, does anybody want to do CPR? Does anybody want to try CPR? And then he says another question. He asks her, is he breathing? She then screams over to Kerry and Karen and says, is he breathing, you guys? Karen says, no. We actually hear it, no, like this little mousy voice yelling back. And then Jen says, no, I guess he's gone. Okay, that's a direct quote. So then the dispatch says, oh, so they don't want to try CPR? And then she says, no, I think he's passed away. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to say. I can only tell you what I absolutely know for sure. Okay. I can only tell you what I absolutely know for sure. It is not possible in 3 minutes to assess that your friend who you were out drinking with last night, who is now passed out on your sister's front lawn, it's not possible for you to make. It won't even come into your head. It's not going to come into your head. You're not going to let that into your head. If you love somebody and you have just stumbled upon them, there is no way that you are going to allow yourself to believe that that person is dead. You're just not. So I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about that. It doesn't. Somebody's saying, Karen, think about this, okay? Karen has been saying, think about this. Karen has been, according to Kerry and Jen, okay? Karen has been saying, Kerry tells us, I don't even know if this is true, but Kerry tells us she believes it. I can tell you that Kerry believes this. I don't know if it's true, but she believes it. She believes that Karen called her up at 4:50 in the morning and said, John's dead, and then hung up. So according to Jen and Kerry, Karen has been saying John is dead for the last hour every 5 seconds. John is dead. John is dead. John is dead. That's what she's been saying every 2 minutes. John is dead. John's dead. He was hit by a plow. I hit him. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? According to these two, who then in real time are saying to her, oh, you're crazy. You're nuts. Shut up. Of course you didn't hit him. That's what they're saying. In fact, they pull up to the scene and Kerry looks at Jen and goes, she's batshit crazy. So you're telling me that the sentiment in that car when they pull up is she's batshit crazy. That's the sentiment in the car. And 3 minutes later, without ever going near the body, not touching the body, Jen McCabe believes Kerry and Karen, who for the last hour has been hysterical, saying, John's dead, John's dead, John's dead. Come on. That didn't happen. Okay. That's not what humans do. It's not what humans do. So here's what I just said didn't happen. So pick a different story, because what I just said is impossible. That is not what human beings do, guys. That's not what human beings do. So if Jen is innocent, you want to say she is, you tell me how, because what I just said isn't possible. It is not possible in 3 minutes of glancing over at your friend and listening to his girlfriend for the last hour, who has been saying she hit him, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead. All of a sudden you believe her? It does not pass the smell test. I will tell you, even if I never knew anything about this case, never, this is a problem. This is a very serious problem. And that is not even considering, you guys, the actual phone call, the actual 911 call. The actual 911 call is so incriminating. It really, really, really is. It really is. It's so frustrating, right? Because I get it. It's, but nobody wants to, you don't want to believe it. I get it. But man, lying on the 911 call, distancing like insanity. Distancing isn't even the right word. I don't know who this guy is. Doesn't tell Sarah for anybody that this is her sister's house. Doesn't tell any of the police this is my sister's house that we're at. It's Lank who tells her to go inside. And by the way, there's like a 20-minute phone call that Lank is on where he suspiciously walks out of camera and then doesn't tell anybody who he's talking to. What is that about? And the thing is, guys, we should have those if they had done a legitimate investigation, we would have the cell phone. And here's the thing, okay? We'd have the cell phone of Brian Albert and Brian Higgins and all these people who could just so easily prove their innocence with a freaking turn of their cell phone over. And let me ask you this. If you have nothing to hide at all, why don't you just turn all of your GPS? Like seriously though, I'm asking this seriously. If you are being accused by anyone, I don't care who they were, a person on the street, a cop, a lawyer, a judge, anyone, anywhere on the planet is accusing you of freaking murder or of knowing somebody that was murdered or of, covering up a murder or whatever, wouldn't you do everything in your power? Wouldn't you be like, here's my cell extract. Here's every piece of evidence on the planet that says I could not have been. You guys are nuts. I was here with this person. Here's the data. Here's the receipts. Not this group. Do you know what this group does? This group goes to an army base and takes their SIM card and breaks it in half. Or this group, literally the day before the order comes down to stay their phones, they change carriers. I didn't like Sprint anymore. I'm going to go with Verizon. Like, come on. Like, come on. That's insanity. Do you think Jen implanted during Karen? No. Well, I mean, it's not impossible, but I also, having done a lot of analysis of like who Karen is, I could definitely imagine that her first instinct was, did I do this? Did I do it? Right? Because you have to remember, from Karen's perspective, she's referencing what happened in Aruba. And remember, in Aruba, the reason why Aruba is important for understanding what happened on this night is because when they were in Aruba, it was New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, it's like a big deal, right? You guys are in Aruba, you're with, she's got his kids. And they're in the hotel, and John is literally wasted, and doesn't come home until 3:00 in the morning. That last part of the story, by the way, I just recently learned. I didn't realize that. Maybe I did and I forgot, but I didn't realize that he just comes back in the room at 3 a.m. That means that Karen has been alone on New Year's Eve with his children, while for 3 hours he's just wandering around this resort with his friends drinking. Now, why is that important? Because the reason that Karen Reed assumes that John went into the house and left her is for that reason. Because people have said, like, why didn't she go in after him? Well, she does call him, right? To her credit, she does call him pretty quickly after. But the reason why she assumes that he didn't come back out and doesn't immediately jump to the idea that something is wrong is because a month earlier, he just disappeared for the entire day. Like, in fact, he wanted to watch the Alabama game. Like, he started drinking at like 4:00 and was just disappeared until 3 a.m., right? So that's really important. For that reason, I think the first part of that night from 12:35 or whatever, from the time that she's on her way back to One Meadows and she gets to John's, she's been drinking. And at that moment, she's like, I don't mean capital T traumatized. In the world I live in, lowercase t trauma means that you've experienced something that causes you in the moment you're in now to have an inflated response to something. In other words, this experience is so similar to something else I've experienced that I'm actually not reacting to this moment. I'm actually reacting to the other moment that was much worse. So the experience that I'm having emotionally isn't matching the event. Well, that's what was going on this night, right? Karen was flipping out because to her, he was leaving her again. And maybe there were girls in there. Maybe his ex-girlfriend was in there, Bella's mom or whatever, right? And she's drinking and she's gone from 0 to 1,000 because of what had happened a month earlier. She thinks, oh my God, like heart into the stomach. It's happening again. Then she goes back to the house and she's a mess. And then she's waiting up, right? So she falls asleep on the couch, hoping he's going to come home and she's probably going to scream and yell at him. But in Karen's mind, because of that, they had been fighting. This is an important detail, right? In Karen's mind, they were fighting. They never actually were fighting. But to Karen, they were fighting because that's the last thing she remembers. She remembers in her mind, John is awake, alive, and in the house with Bella's mom, right? Or whoever the girl is. So for Karen, so that's right. That's until she wakes up at 4 a.m. and is like, oh my God, like he didn't come home. So now she knows, no, something is really wrong. And now that anger switches to fucking panic, right? And then we get those like eerie, like, John, where are you? Texts or calls, voicemails where she's like, where are you? Like you can see, you know that squeal is coming from a deep place. She's flipping out that he's gone, right? So we have Karen completely, first of all, in a state that I hope none of us ever have to experience or never have to experience again, because now she's been drinking a lot. She had a pretty decent tolerance at the time, but she's been drinking a lot. She was histrionic. She was completely hysterical because she was angry, right? So she's in like a he's hurting me place, but then that flips to, oh my God, like something's really wrong. And now there's like a full-blown panic. So this is like, compounding of anxiety on top of anxiety on top of anxiety. So I do think that because she is so, like, in her mind, she's so sort of self-organized. I don't want to say something. I don't want to use judgment because I don't mean it to be critical. I'm not saying like I'm saying like she projects, right? So in Karen's mind, John has been with another girl. He left her with the kids again, right? And so in her mind, she's not thinking about like John going into the house, John being with, she's solely thinking about her and him, herself and him, right? So that's why I think we get the, like, did I do this? She sees the tail light. She knows she's been in a brownout, right? Knows she's been in a brownout. She sees the crack. But here's an important detail about this taillight, guys. Here's another really important detail. Well, I can only tell you half of this. The first description of the taillight, this came up again today. I found this today. The first description of the taillight, and this is why we're not going to have time. I really wanted to show you this tonight, but we're not going to. There's no way. We'll be here till 3 a.m. The first description is it's pushed in. Okay. So like there's a piece, according to Kerry Roberts, a piece pushed in. And because of that, there's like a little, like a thing hanging out. Remember that you can catch your shirt on, and she's worried about people catching their shirt on it. But it's very clear that like it's the kind of little indent that she'd get from backing up into, I don't know, a fire hydrant or a vehicle, right? It's like whatever she backed up into was not made of human flesh. It was made of something very solid, right? That weighed a lot, because it instantly put like a 1.5 inch dent in on this very strong taillight, right? And there's absolutely no, obviously, we already don't need to go through John's injuries. You know what they were, right? There aren't any. So, but it's important to go back and listen to the testimony again, because in there is a completely different version of what this taillight looked like. And this is the taillight that came, the version that comes from the original January 29th discussion from Kerry Roberts about what the taillight looked like. And it's an indent with a little piece sticking out because of that indent, right? So to me, in Karen's sort of hysteria and in her sort of projection that she does, and just like her lack of knowing, I think that's what, could it have been me? Could I have done it? She sees the taillight and that's what she's thinking. I don't think she said, I hit him. I mean, I think that was just, first of all, Jennifer McCabe never says that to the grand jury, never says that to any of the police at all. And obviously, she doesn't even say it at the very beginning. Like, she's only saying that after the Minion meeting. It's only at the Minion meeting, the 11 a.m., the 7 to 11 a.m. meeting, that she then has Mike Lang come back. Because remember, she says she remembers now that Karen confessed, said, I hit him. Right? It's also interesting because one of the things that Aussie Insider just told us, which I did not know this, and this is really interesting because it lines up perfectly, that 10:30 a.m. house long TI die CIKD, that's exactly when they would be sitting at the Albert kitchen, right? That's exactly that moment where they're all sitting around having this, Minion meeting about what to tell the cops and everybody. It's crazy. I don't know. You got to come up with something, because if you're going to say that Jennifer McCabe has nothing to do with this, then you've got to find a way to explain why it is that she tells dispatch 4 times, even though she just found him, and is so comfortable with him being dead that she literally waves CPR. I want you to think about like what you're doing. Like, imagine talking to 911. You just found your friend who you love on the ground at your sister's house. Are you going to wave like no, he's dead. I'm sorry. I can't. I personally cannot find a way around that. Like, okay, whatever. Could I hit him? I don't know. I don't know what, but that one I can't get around. There's no workaround for me. Obviously the Google search is another one, but I can't get past that one. So is it possible? It's possible, but I think Karen was probably saying a lot of things that morning, like, you know, she was a freaking disaster. She was completely hysterical. And there was some trauma because of what had happened. Like I said, lowercase t trauma. I'm not talking about, assault type trauma. I'm talking about lowercase t trauma from the experience that had happened a month earlier that I think played a very significantly large role in that night, because I think Karen's behavior would have been completely different had that not happened a month earlier. Just a normal mom. Absolutely. Normal mom. We're just normal moms. If I had more time and nothing else to do at all, I would have so much fun going through, because like you guys are talking about it, right? Going through and showing you, like, play for pound, the different testimony where you can kind of see the different performances. It's something, man. It really is. It's really a trip. It's really a trip. Ay. Let's see here. That's a great question. Yeah, Aussie Insider, do you think the feds are still investigating? I have no reason to believe that. I've not heard that. I would love to believe that, though. If anybody thinks they know, I think it would be awesome. Yeah. Sherry D says, I saw Berkey's son's broken taillight. I saw Berkey's son's broken taillight. Berkey's son's broken taillight. What is that about? I jumped into something there. What do you mean? Aussie says, I have no idea. Yes, they work slowly. They work very slowly. And I also know that they like hard evidence. I will tell you, though. I will tell you something interesting. There's that email in the Morrissey personal server dump where the feds, remember, they're like, God, I can't remember. It's in the Betero Mega Motion, I think, where the feds are, where Morrissey is trying to reach out to the Fed's office, I guess the AG's office, was it the Attorney General himself? Trying to reach out to say, hey, we want you to arrest Aiden for witness intimidation. And eventually, I think it's like, there's like a couple of these back and forth with the Attorney General. I think it's the Attorney General, right? But eventually, the assistant for whoever they were trying to reach out to writes back and says, I think it's Josh Levy at the time. I think they have a significantly different understanding of this case, right? Right? I think they have a significantly different understanding of this case. In other words, yeah, they don't quite see it the way that you do. So we know that the feds did not think that they had enough evidence to indict Karen Read. I mean, that part we definitely know. For sure. So but I don't know to what degree they actually, felt they had enough evidence to indict. Here's the problem with this case. Here is the problem. In the Sandra Birchmore case, I mean, guys, do you get more smoking gun evidence than you do in that case? Come on. I mean, that case, right? Like, you have this guy, this giant man in a hoodie. Like, could you look more guilty of something? You don't have to be doing it. You just look so guilty. He's got the hood up. He's going into the elevator. This girl is found dead. This tiny little girl is found dead. They have a treasure trove of text messages. I mean, it's like, come on. And basically, it's like, we might as well have a video of him shooting her, right? It's like as close as it gets. Unfortunately, with this case, and then look, maybe there is evidence that we don't know. But I think, to your point, Aussie, earlier, Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's like you need that like hard evidence. You need that really, the smoking gun or something of that elk. And the problem here is no sufficient investigation was ever really conducted. It's so freaking frustrating. My God, it's so freaking frustrating. And yes, excellent point. Oh my God, Char Michael, the 30,000 texts that Trooper Garino lost. I'll tell you something about Garino. This is interesting. I've been really trying to figure this out. Because this guy does not, he seems really weak stomached to me. He does not seem comfortable lying. He really tries to break his back to not lie about the cell phone extractions. It's clear that he didn't do Jen and Kerry's cell phone extractions. Okay. He didn't do them. But he is not willing to say or even really imply that somebody else in the office did them. All he says over and over again is, I can't remember doing them. He's really definitive about the fact that he did not do it, but he won't say who did. All he says is, we just had them. We just had them. The extractions just appeared out of nowhere. Right. So it's interesting. All he would have had to do was answer yes. Yeah. Oh, so-and-so did the extraction. But it's quite clear that, and I'll show it to you. It's in one of my next videos. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about with Garino. But my point is, he does not, as much of a scumbag. I mean, look at what this guy has done in that case. And then in this case, come on, this guy is the one looking at the extraction report. Come on, he knows. You guys, he knows. He knows about the Google search. He knows about the files. He knows about the wall files. He knows about missing data. He knows there was no hash key. He knows the data was manipulated, you guys. Oh, hi, Liz. Hi, Liz. Welcome. It's tough. But my point with Garino is I don't think he's comfortable with it. Michael Proctor is comfortable with lying. Michael Proctor likes it. For Proctor, it's the lying makes him feel more like he's in his little club, like him and Buchanan and Tully, they're in this secret club, and the lying is part of that brotherhood. I don't get the sense that Garino feels that way at all. I don't. I really don't. I really don't. What are we saying here? Wait up. I'm trying to get you. I'm going. Jennifer George. How did I miss this? Sends $4.99 and says, thank you, Sam. And thank you. Thank you for your support. And thank you for being here. Thank you guys. Thank all of you for being here. And thank you all for your support. Never in a million lifetimes, if you had told me 5 months ago that we would be here together on a Wednesday night at whatever, almost 1 a.m, I would have never believed you ever. Never, ever, ever. That's the truth. I would never have believed you. So I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Twigs the Gemini says, don't forget the police report that said to be shattered about Jen's phone. She says, I didn't delete anything. When is that? Did I not see that? When did she say that? Don't forget the police report that said, wait a minute. Jen says this? Jennifer says this at some point? Did I miss this? Don't forget the police report that said to be shattered about Jen's phone. Did she say that? Did I miss her police report about Jen's phone? Aquarius Magic sends $1.99. If he never came in, then what happened inside? Well, they had to bring him. I mean, they had to at some point, he was dead. Either there was a fight and he died inside the house, or there was a fight and he died outside of the house and had to be brought out of the outside, right? So my feeling is that the reason for the house long to die in the cold search was to try to understand the idea that had already been put forward, that the way to deal with this dead person on their hands. So what I believe happened was there was a fight, there was a dog. John was dead very quickly. It was an accident. I say that because of bruising to John's hands, like fights, because of the cut on his. I always get confused. So I'm looking at myself on which side it was. It's either right over the right eyebrow and on this side of the nose, and then on here. So there's a cut here and then a cut. There's bruising on right here. There's a coup contra coup injury from hitting something at a high force, heavy force. So inside his brain, literally he fell backwards at such a intense force, with such intense force that his brain shot forward in the back of his head, inside his skull. And that's what caused all the bruising from the inside out. That's why he's got the big bruising here. And then that's part of the bulging eyes. It's not what killed him, though. What killed him was the shattered skull back here, the injury to the back of the head, the brain stem. It's his whole brain swole up to the point where just his brain there was no place for the nerves and neurons to go anymore, and just died immediately. Really, with that kind of injury, he'd be dead in 15 minutes. So it's very clear to me that he died. There was a fight, that he fell back in that scuffle. There's also, like I said, marks. It looks like he was hit here, and that there was an actual altercation because he got some punches in too. I don't know where that happened. I don't know if it happened inside or outside. There also was a dog, and those marks 100% match a dog. If you go and investigate yourself, as I have, you will find that you can go find them pretty easily. You can Google, what does it look like from a dog attack? And you'll see, and then you line that up with John O'Keefe's injuries on his arm, and you will see it is a lock. It is very, very, very close. So to me, there was a fight, and he was dead. And the problem was these men were drunk and weren't thinking. If they weren't so drunk, I think the obvious answer would be, let's say it's self-defense. I mean, Brian Higgins has those text messages with Karen. It would have been so easy for them to just say it was self-defense. But they didn't. And he was dead, and everybody apparently panicked. I don't know. And the reason for the Google search was not because he was alive and they wanted to know how long he was going to die, but because there's only two ways for a body to get to 80 degrees, right? One is to die, and the other is to be hypothermic. And my guess is these guys were first responders. Now, if I have first responders here, you guys can help me out with this. But if you're a first responder, you know that if you find somebody laying in the snow and they're cold, you can't pronounce them dead until you go back to the hospital and you warm up that body. Because there have been people, believe it or not, that were in crazy cold temperatures or in these really extraordinary circumstances where they come back to life, even though they were very obviously appeared to be dead because they were frozen. They were so cold. Their body essentially was so cold, and they were able to bring them back. So the first responders in the house would have known that. They would have known that John O'Keefe's death was unlikely to be called as such at the scene. Jennifer McCabe was actually, in my mind, as I'm thinking about this, as I'm talking about it right now. To me, she was trying to tell the first responders the truth, but she may not have supposed to have been. My guess is that the people like hubby and Uncle Brian and like they wouldn't have wanted her to be saying that, obviously, to the dispatch, right? They want everyone to believe that he was just passed out on the front lawn. They don't want a dead body to be on their front lawn, right? So in their minds, the story was going to be, we don't know. He must have fallen and hit his head. That's what happened. Karen must have dropped him off and he fell. He hit his head. He never came in the house. And then he died of hypothermia. That was going to be the story, right? That's what they were trying to assert from the beginning, I'm guessing. That was the idea of putting him outside. That's the reason why she's looking it up, right? Like, how long does it take for someone to become hypothermic? Because if this was a situation where it was a person who was living and passed out, how long would it take for their body to get to 80 degrees, right? Like, how long would it take to put a living person outside? To me, that's why she was doing it. Now, again, I am completely speculating. I have no evidence of that whatsoever. This is just entirely what makes sense to me based on her behavior. But it's absolutely a guess, just like anybody else's for sure. Yeah, so crazy. Lindsay Tyler sends $4.99. Why would Jen McCabe tell Karen, shut up? Oh, it's more than that, Lindsay. It's so much more than that, because let me tell you, she is completely uninterested in Karen Reed. At the time that this 911 call is happening, Jennifer McCabe has no interest in Karen Reed at all. 911 dispatch says, who's that in the background? Who's that yelling? And she's like, that's his girlfriend. And then she doesn't say Karen Reed. She says, John O'Keefe. That's the moment. You see what I'm saying? So in Jen's mind at that time, she's trying to figure out, like, do I say his name? Should I say his name? Are they going to know the name? Is this cop on the other line going to know the name John O'Keefe if I say it? Because it's a cop. I'm calling the police, 911, right? So he's so completely uninterested in Karen that when asked directly about her, this woman who, according to Jen, has been screaming and yelling, I hit him. Oh, for the last hour, right? Confessing for an hour, showing the taillight and the whole thing. When asked about who she is, that woman making all that noise, she doesn't even say, like, oh, that's Karen. She just says, oh, that's his girlfriend, because he's the subject that she's focused on. And then she gives John O'Keefe, like, do you know him? She says the name like it's a question. So to me, I don't know how else to say it. I mean, this 911 call is really incriminating. It's really incriminating. It's like, and I've listened to this a couple of different times. The first time I heard it, it was incriminating, but I couldn't make out all of the little in between things that she's saying. But when you are, and then you look at the timeline of when this is happening, it's just impossible. It's just not how we are. And if you've ever lost somebody, anybody, think about the news. Like, when you get that news, how long does that take for you to, like, grasp, like, really get it in your head when you have there's not somebody who's been sick, not someone who you knew was going to be passing away, someone who's, going to be 99 years old next week. I'm talking about a sudden, before their time, before their passing, death that you all of a sudden hear about. How long does it take for you to, like, fully grasp that person is gone? Like, it's just like, what? Like, what? This is the reason. This is also, by the way, those of you that like Wendy Adelson, this is also how we know that Wendy Adelson, this is like the big first clue. One of my next like 5 videos from now is going to be the Wendy Adelson, like the top 10 most incriminating moments from her police interview, because there's so freaking many. But the one that is like so obvious, like screams at you, is her reaction to hearing about Dan. No, that's not. No, that's that. The only your dog, an animal, a pet. You're going to have a reaction like that when you find out, like, okay, my dog died or something, God forbid, right? Your child, God forbid. And even that, you'd be just so shocked. Like, it's such, you know what I mean? You have to understand, guys, everything in our psyche is designed not to think about dying. It's just really off the table unless you have to think about it. Unless the circumstances warrant it, it is not something that we're programmed to spend a lot of time focused on. So when we lose somebody that we love suddenly, with no reason to think it's coming, it is really hard to comprehend it. But Wendy hates Dan Markel, hates him, okay? She spends every day for how many years talking about how much she hates him. She hates him. It's supposed to be a surprise. You don't just hear the words and within 2 seconds you're no, that's not. Sorry, Wendy. And not to mention she covers her face. I mean, there's so many things that are wrong with the Wendy Adelson. But I mean, that one was such a big one because it's like, wait a minute, I have an ex-husband. I love him and he's a wonderful human and he's my daughter's father and he's a great man, and he's funny and and I love him, right? Not in love with him, but I love him as a person. My first reaction would not be like hysteria. It would be shock. Like, what the fuck? Like, it would not be, you're just not going to fall apart like that. That's not going to be the first. So it's so obviously staged in her case. But in this case, right, I don't know if I can communicate the significance. Jennifer McCabe is trying to tell the 911 people, don't worry about CPR. You're coming to get a dead body. That is what she's actually saying. And what she's worried about is the scene. Oh my God, this is a scene. And I want, in case you're ready to say, well, maybe she doesn't mean it that way. That statement comes immediately following, Kerry, you got to get off him, hon. Kerry, you got to get off him, hon. Meaning, you got to get off the dead man. I am telling you that Jennifer McCabe 911 call is the real deal. It is, for me, as a behavioral person, from a psychological perspective, this call is really, it's many, many things. I could fill in the blank many, many ways. Upsetting, shocking, horrific, unimaginable. And the word that is just the most obvious is incriminating. It's extraordinarily incriminating. I mean, she knew he was dead. She had to have known, you're not going to waive CPR. The last thing you are going to, even if you knew he had hypothermia, even if you thought he'd been outside for 6 hours, you would be saying, get over here and revive him. Get over here with those electrodes and shock this man back to life. Do you understand? You are not going to say, oh, don't worry. Don't even bring first responders. Just bring the morgue here. Nope. I'm sorry, you're not. That didn't happen, okay? So she knew he was gone already. Unless you can come up with another reason for why it is that she's so comfortable with, let me say it this way. Listen to the call very closely. She thinks that call is going to end. The dispatch keeps her on. Dispatch keeps that call going. Jennifer McCabe is ready to hang up. He's like, all right, okay. All right. Like, and then he asks another question. I don't know if it's how long have they been drinking? I think the next thing he asks another question, but right before that question, he says, well, if you're refusing to give CPR, then I guess just give us a call back if the situation changes, or if he wakes up, or no, if you're successful, or forget the exact phrase, but something like that. So it sounds like he's about to go. And right at that moment, she's like, okay. The way you would say if you're about to hang up the phone, right? You're like, she's saying her goodbyes. And then he asks another question. So in her mind, she has just reiterated twice in 10 seconds, no, you don't understand. He's gone. I guess he's gone. Like twice, she's trying to tell the guy on the other end who has the life-saving support. God, I wish Alan Jackson had this 911 call. I really wish that he'd had this 911. I really do. I don't know that they heard it. Like, I just don't. I don't know if I really don't know. I don't know if he knows what that 911 call said during the trial, because this call, the full gravity of this call is so incredibly incriminating. Right. This is, by the way, just so you know, this is why I've stayed away from Jennifer McCabe's testimony since the trial, because there is so much there. I can feel it. I know it. And it's like, do I really want to like dig around in Jennifer McCabe's psyche like too much? Like, not, I really don't. It's like, it's really too much. Because like, how could this person be doing this? Like, okay. I know we should all go, right? I know I should be going to sleep, but I really want to understand. Okay. Let me ask you guys this. I love my daughter more than anything in the world. I would give my life gladly for hers. But I'm not so sure that I would pin it on another person if she was responsible for someone's death directly. Right? I might get her a good attorney. Okay. I might go to the ends of the earth to defend her innocence. But what I am not going to do, I am not going to actively indict an innocent person knowingly. Actively say somebody else did it. And that part is tough to get past. I don't know how you go to sleep at night with that. I really don't. I don't know how you just like, okay, well, so what that I was going to, I was happily ready to truly pin it on an innocent person. That's so fucked up. Okay. I don't know if I remember this police report, Twigs. I'm going to have to go back and look. I don't remember the police report about the tail light. I got to take this a note about this. I only remember hearing about the police report like during the trial, but I don't remember ever seeing the police report. Like, I remember Proctor talking, or somebody maybe interviewing, or I'm not interviewing. Yeah. During the trial. Was that Jackson who, I don't know. I can't remember. I'm so far away in my brain from Proctor. Like I'm all the way down the rabbit hole on trial 2 and Jen McCabe that like, I don't even know what's going on over there right now. I can't keep it straight. In reference to Jen's phone, she gives a long, I followed by, didn't delete anything on my phone. They lied inside the truth. She gives a long, oh, I don't remember that. Is that in the, it's in her second trial? Is that the second trial? I wonder if is that the first trial or the second trial? I didn't see this. I'm going to have to go back and look. I mean, that's the thing. I've only probably gotten through 50% of Jen, because then I got distracted and was in Kerry. And I wanted to show you guys Kerry Roberts. There's some shit in there. There's some really interesting and important shit in there. It's crazy. This case is like never going to stop. It's insane. It's so much, you guys. It's it's like the never ending story, this case. It really, really is. It really, really is. Love your tenacity and in-depth content. Thanks, Silver Swag, and thank you for being a supporter. Thanks for being here. Berkshire Girl. Hello, Berkshire Girl. Welcome. I feel like we're, that's like Berkshire Girl. That's a me. That's like a me thing. We're like the same. The entire thing is so tragic, Berkshire Girl, and thank you so much for your super sticker and for your membership. Hooray! Yay! 3 months. Wow. I was just saying, I can't believe it's been 4 months. So we're so happy to have you here for 3 months. It is so tragic. That's the thing. It's so fucking tragic. I would love to just let it go. I'd love to be like, yeah, whatever, who cares? But that's why I get really upset and bothered by like when we have to hear Kerry Roberts, talking about how we've all forgotten about John and, oh, Karen stole the limelight. It's like, are you projecting? Because that is not true. That is not true. Because we're wearing pink and not blue, you think we forgot about John O'Keefe? I don't know what planet you're on, but the only reason I'm here in large part is because of John. Like, it's John that drove me here and I've said this many times, I will go to the ends of the earth to defend Karen, but it's because of John, right? So stupid. It drives me nuts when I hear that. So thank you, though, Berkshire Girl, for being here. Aquarius says I was being silly. Oh, I don't even remember the question. I'm like tired. It's so late. Aquarius Magic says I was just being silly, just making the point because Jen said on the stand Kerry had nothing to do with what. Yes. So that's not, by the way, this is what makes this so interesting. Jen was talking about Julie Nagel. So when Jen said she had nothing to do, well, what happened inside the house was separate from the outside, she's actually talking about Julie Nagel. That's really important because what that tells us is that, how about the question that all of us have been asking for so long, right? Like, could the people in the house have been separated into two camps? A group, which I'm sitting here, sorry if that was loud. I'm answering my own question as I'm saying this out loud. We already know that Brian Higgins and Brian Albert are separated out because Brian Albert, forget about all the other people, for lack of a better way to say this, forget about everybody else. Just think about Brian Albert and Brian Higgins. Brian Albert has himself with Brian Higgins upstairs in his son's bedroom, which means, unlike what Caitlin Albert tells us, that they are within her line of sight. Dad never leaves her sight, according to Caitlin. The only problem with that is, according to Dad, he's upstairs with Brian Higgins. Now, Brian Higgins tells us he never goes upstairs. And he's in the family room, not looking at pictures of the son. No, or is he looking at pictures of the son? I can't remember if Brian Higgins is looking at pictures of the son. Yeah. Brian Higgins is looking at the pictures of the son and the Marines in the family room. The point of this is Brian Albert has separated him and Brian Higgins from the rest of the group. They are separated. Nobody else wants to admit it, but they are. So there is a point at exactly the time that John O'Keefe is murdered, is no longer with us, where Brian Higgins and Brian Albert are not with everybody else. which makes sense. They are friends. They're the buddies. Okay. Were they parking Brian Higgins's car? Maybe. Is that why they keep with the stupid Jeep? Like, why are Brian Higgins and Brian Albert so freaked out about the Jeep being in front of the mailbox? I don't know. But those two are together, and wherever they are, that's where John is. And what we know now from Jen is that it seems like Julie and Sarah were not privy to what was going on with John. Whatever happened with John was happening separate and apart from the people in the house. So now the question is, at what point did like Jennifer McCabe and Caitlin Albert, because Caitlin had to take the dog off the premises. I mean, like, at what point do these other people become savvy to what's going on? That has to kind of be the story, right? So just a question of Brian Higgins and Brian Albert, where were they? Yeah, I mean, listen, think about that and let's try to figure it out. I unfortunately won't get to be back with you guys next week, which sucks. I know. I really look forward to this time together. But I'm going to be gone all week for the first time in like 15 years, maybe more than that, because I never take vacations during the week, maybe my maternity leave. So it's been a very long time, but when I get back, think about it, right? Think about it. It's very helpful just to kind of talk it through, because this is why I am happy to invite people that have a different opinion, because it does get you like, okay, wait, what happened? And well, there's this, it's good to be challenged. It's good to like make it more clear for yourself, like what did happen here. And sometimes, we all have so much information. It's a lot to sort through. It really is. But so a huge thank you, first and foremost, to all of you guys. If you haven't hit the like button or subscribed, make sure you do it. Do not forget an enormous, huge thank you to Denise for being seriously, truly the best moderator in the entire universe. You very much are. To all of you that have been with me now, I cannot believe it. All of our channel members, you're the best. You're the best. For those of you that are having an anniversary, oh my God, it's amazing. I can't believe you guys that we've been together for this long already. It's crazy. Time is flying by. Everybody, enjoy your Halloween. I hope you guys, New York City, Halloween is a huge holiday. If you've never been here for Halloween, you should check it out. There's a huge Halloween parade and it goes right by my house. So, it's a little maybe more than I would like, and I have to move my car and it's a huge pain in the ass, but it is a fun holiday to be in New York City. So everyone enjoy your Halloween, and I will see you on the other side. And you can expect, like I said, we're going to get 10 of these Who Killed John O'Keefe videos done. That is my mission. That is my goal. If it kills me, I'm doing it. So you'll be hearing a lot more from me very, very soon. Good night, everybody. Good night, you guys. Everybody enjoy your weekend, your Halloween. My God, and then we're into the holiday season.